Welcome in, guys. I'm back with Randy. We're going to go through the AFC now. We hit the NFC yesterday. We're just going to get right into the AFC, man. Well, Randy, welcome in again, brother.
Damn, Cade, back at it again. Cut it, bro.
Cut it?
Cut it, bro, yeah. But, yeah, what's up, guys? Back at it again. And we're going through the AFC today. Definitely doesn't look the same, and some teams have definitely changed their identity as well. So we're looking to get into those teams, but starting with the Ravens.
Yeah. Start with the Ravens, man. What are you thinking?
Man, they're just they know who they are. They know how they want to play ball. And if I wasn't a Bears fan, I'm a Ravens fan. I'm a big fan of their coaching staff, the way they know who they are and how they want to play. They play like a Raven. That's their motto. And when you listen to the coaches speak, they love football. I love football.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know about you, bro. I mean, you love football as well.
Yeah,
from everything
man.
I've heard. I mean,
Yes,
these
sir.
guys love football, bro. And
Yep.
their offense, they know who they are. They want to run the ball. They brought in Henry to help out with that, but it all starts with Lamar Jackson, his legs, bro. It's the base of their offense is that initial threat of the run with the QB. But seeing the evolution of his game over the past couple of years where he's no longer just a runner. There was plays last year where he would pull back and keep his eyes downfield and not go across the line of scrimmage and then dump it down and let his guys go make a play for him. Seeing that maturity in his game is just so impressive. And they added a ton of speed to that receiver room in the offseason to kind of counter the strong rushing threat they have on the inside and also with options, with QB run game, with Henry running in and out. They lost some pieces on the offensive line, but I don't think it's going to change when you have such a threat at the QB position to run the ball. So, I mean, I'm excited to see how they evolve, and with that speed at the receiver position, how do they utilize that to get their guys the ball in their hands?
Yeah, man. I think, like you said, Lamar is the tone setter. They go out and get Derrick Henry, which, yeah, he's 30. It's not a great sign, right? Typically, when you have older running backs and they change teams, they don't have that same production they had in their last team. But I think this might be the exception because of how they want to establish the run. And that, man, just think of like an option, like an inside zone where Lamar could either keep it or give it to Derrick Henry. That's unbelievable, man. I think they also said they're going to use Justice Hill a lot as like a complimentary role. I think he's solid, man. I think he's a very perfect complement to what they want to do. And they get Keaton Mitchell back whenever he comes back, man.
Yes.
And he's a stud too. You know about him too.
Mitchell.
Yeah, and then obviously they drafted Zay Flowers last year. He was electric for them.
Yeah.
Kind of had that untimely fumble, but other than that, man, he had a great season. You get Mark Andrews back fully healthy. He was kind of banged up last year, but yeah, man, they have an identity. That's what you said yesterday. With teams, good teams have an identity and how they want to play, and the Ravens definitely do. Let's head over to their defense, unless you want to touch.
I do want to talk a little bit more. I think they're gonna have a crazy RPO game, just based off of what you said about that inside and the options they have in rushing and the threats they have. When you're able to threaten the way they can, the RPO game with the speed they have at receiver, all their guys I think run low 4.4s or high 4.3s. Aside from Rashad Bateman, I mean, you need one size guy, so they got it. But I mean, the speed they have with the RPOs, I'm super excited to see how they hold up as the season goes on, because I think that's a very winning formula. But defense, I mean, it's same old, bro. I mean, not so much changed. The front seven, what else is there really to say about it? They know how they want to play ball. They come out every season. They have guys at linebacker, guys at edge, guys in the middle that are big and stop the run, And when they're able to have pieces on the back end like they do in depth, it just makes it a total complementary team to where they're going to be able to put up points and put the pressure on these other teams to score, but just to keep drives, to keep that defense off the field, keep their offense on the field, and keep this Ravens defense on the field. And I don't think they're going to be able to do it. They have so much physicality all throughout the defense, and their corners are athletic and playmaking. And they just drafted the corner from, I think it was Clemson.
Yeah, Nate Wiggins.
Nate Wiggins,
he's a stud, man.
Yeah, you have a guy like that who just flashed in the
Yeah.
preseason. You know, he's super. He looks like a great playmaker for him at corner. And I mean, if you got a guy like that opposite of Marlon Humphrey, dude, I mean, sky's the limit for this defense yet again.
Yeah.
And the offense is gonna be same old, same old.
Yeah. Touching on like kind of the offense and defense, how they're going to be complementary. I think with how they want to establish a run and just kind of just kill that clock and keep that other defense on the field, that just lets this defense sit on the sideline, kind of get some rest, stay fresh, man. They lose Patrick Queen, which is going to be a loss for them, but it's not Roquan Smith. And Roquan Smith is, in my opinion, the best linebacker in the league. I think it's him and Fred Warner, and I think Roquan, I'd rather have Roquan just how dialed in he is. I like Kyle Hamilton a lot. I think Kyle Hamilton just is he's a do-it-all guy for them. He's everywhere. He's kind of like what we touched on yesterday with Branch, what Branch is kind of be. He's going to fill that Kyle Hamilton role, just be all over the place. He had that crazy pick last year for the Browns where he just read it, tipped it up to himself, and took it in for a touchdown. That was peak Kyle Hamilton just being him. But yeah, man, you touched on it. They have pass rushers. They got a leader on that defense with Roquan Smith, and they got the secondary to back it up too, man. I think this Ravens team losing Patrick Queen is going to be, they're going to feel that a little bit. They're going to have some guys step up for them, though. I think this scheme and this Ravens identity is just going to kind of fill in for the loss of Patrick Queen. But yeah,
having two linebackers is a luxury.
Yeah,
you know, it's like if you got one guy that's like Roquan Smith, you're ecstatic. But I mean, it's like if you have two guys, that's a luxury. A lot of teams don't have two guys, but when you got a guy like Roquan Smith, this run and the way the front seven is constructed, this run defense is going to be the same. You're not going to be giving up a lot of big plays. You're going to be containing teams, making them one-dimensional. And with a guy like Roquan Smith, who's got the speed and ability to go sideline to sideline, he can have a defensive player of the year type of season. And I think that wouldn't be surprising at all if he does.
Yeah, man. Totally agree. If you want to head over to the Cleveland Browns now, what do you think about them?
Man, they're just all about the trenches, both sides of the ball. I mean, I'm really excited to see Nick Chubb come back. I think this guy is built different. I don't think that he's the type of guy to where it's like he's not going to have the same burst. I think that he's just a built different type of individual. And even if he loses a step, he was already way faster than everybody else. You know, you see Saquon Barkley, the way he runs now after a couple of like years of being kind of ran down. I think Nick Chubb still got more explosion. He should have some more explosion and ability than Saquon Barkley does right now. And I think he's one of the top backs I've seen in my lifetime. So I'm excited to see him come back because behind this offensive line, they're going to have success and ability to run the ball. I think it's really crucial, though, that they let Deshaun Watson use his legs to get his confidence back and get him back in the game, you know, because if you just sit him back and try to drop him back after so much time missed, you know, and having so many questions about should they play a guy like Joe Flacco over him, you know, like those are confidence-killing type of things to where he needs to get his confidence back, get more in the rhythm, and they really got to utilize his legs in the ground game to get him back in the flow of the game. They got receivers. They added Judy. But, I mean, it's Cleveland. What's their identity? Running the ball. They're in a cold weather, harsh environment, and I think the identity needs to be the ground game. But they do have receivers and weapons to get the ball to, so we'll see how they balance it out. But Deshaun's got to get his confidence back.
Yeah, I think that starts with the run game, like you said. They got to get – I just hope for the Browns' sake that they get Chubb back sooner rather than later because Jerome Ford's – he's a serviceable backup. He was actually pretty good for them last year. But if you can get the run going, you can set up that play action, set up some easy completions for Deshaun. That's the type of confidence builder that you're talking about with getting this guy back on track, man. It is a killer when you see Joe Flacco go out there and win Comeback Player of the Year. And just
what is that award,
just
bro?
saying that.
Like, what is that award?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's for when Deshaun Watson fakes an injury. By the way, I totally thought he faked that.
Whoa, you think he faked an injury?
Oh yeah, I think that shoulder injury was not as detrimental as he kind of made it out to be. I could be wrong. I'm not Deshaun Watson. I'm not in the Browns. Yeah. I'm not there with them, but they did sign Jameis Winston to kind of be that backup for him. And I like I'm a big Jameis Winston guy because first off, he's hilarious. I every interview with him, that
Funniest dude in the NFL.
He's so funny. But on the field, he is gonna let these guys who they sign, like Judy, Mari Cooper, David Njoku, he's gonna sling the rock and he's gonna give those guys opportunities to go up and make catches. And I think that's what the Browns kind of build this team thinking that Deshaun would be, is like that gunslinger kind of like guy.
Yeah, 100%
and he just hasn't been. He hasn't been what they thought he was going to be for them. So, yeah, man, it's kind of just getting Nick Chubb back is like the biggest thing I can say about this offense. Is he's kind of like that engine that is going to keep this offense going. So stay. We'll get to the defense in just a second, but just stay tuned to this Browns team come like December and see like how much of a compliment Nick Chubb is to this entire team, because he's going to set up that play action like I talked about, man, and that's going to be such a vital piece for this offense to be successful. But
when you got an offensive line like they do, I think play action is always going to be effective, though. I mean, you got whatever running backs you're throwing back there, they're going to be able to move the ball on the ground. It's just about whether they got that punch like they had with Nick Chubb, And I think this offensive line, the way they've constructed it, I mean, like I said, trenches, man. Both sides of the ball, they're tops of the league. And it's just about, do they have the ability in them to adjust and realize, maybe we can't just sit back and throw for 300 a game with Deshaun. And maybe we have to run the ball with him and use his athletic ability, because he's not old. He has his legs under him. He doesn't have, like, any reason why he can't do that. You keep it as an element. You don't make it the primary, but he needs to be more designed QB runs and taking advantage of that, because it's kind of an untapped side of his game right now.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. Let's head over to this defense now. What are your thoughts on them?
Dude, it's the front seven. They got guys in the back end, but, I mean, this front seven is fast, bro. Like, you look at linebackers, and it's JOK, and then I forget the other guy's name that is there, but
Zadarius Smith.
Zadarius Smith.
Jordan
Hicks,
Hicks,
exactly. Jordan Hicks as well. I mean, they just got guys that can flow to the ball, and when you got a defensive line that other teams have to game plan for going into every single week, it just sets up the rest of the defense for success, because you can win with 4. These other teams are having to scheme just to get past the line. And when you got guys who can take advantage of holes opening up behind that line, it's a winning formula on defense just up front. But, I mean, the secondary as well. You got a guy like Denzel Ward who can travel and match up one-on-one with the best receivers. The safeties are solid. And, I mean, I'm not too – I mean, you got Greg Newsome at number 2. It's not bad. But, I mean, I do think that we'll see if this offense is able to complement them so that they're not having to rely on this unit too much, and they can just be themselves and make plays and help win the game, and not have to win the game themselves.
Yeah, Stefanski had these guys dialed in last year. I think when you got a guy like Myles Garrett on that D-line, he draws that attention like Aaron Donald, like all these other top-end pass rushers do. That he's going to open everything up, and they signed Zadarius Smith. He's still a valuable asset to any team that he's on, man. He's going to get after the passer. They, like you touched on, JOK is going to have a huge year. They got a solid guy in Jordan Hicks. As like a Cardinals guy, I just don't understand why we let him go. I think he was solid for us, and now he's on one of the best defenses in the league. They got Dallin Tomlinson. They got guys up front that are just going to clog holes and let these pass rushers just get after the QB. Like you said, on the back end, man, they got Denzel Ward who can match up with pretty much anybody. I think
can travel too, man.
Yeah, I think CD in an interview he was talking about what are the top 5 corners that you hate playing against the most, and he's like, yeah, Denzel Ward is super underrated, man. His technique is so good. Just kind of hyping him up, so that kind of tells you what one of the best receivers in the league thinks about him. I think that says a lot. But yeah, man, that's kind of what I got. I think they're gonna be solid again. There's really not. They just added really. I'm trying to think of who they lost.
The one guy that I saw when I was looking at the depth chart, I looked at the D ends, and like the edge rushers. I haven't seen this name. I don't know where this guy's been, but Tack McKinley.
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
I was like, he's still in the league. I didn't realize that. I mean, he was first round pick of the Falcons a couple years ago, and when all I could think about was him with this picture of his grandma on the stage, like just freaking out. I mean, good for him for still being in the league. But I mean, I haven't seen this dude in years. I didn't even know he was still in the league. But I mean, they got some depth at edge rusher too, to where they could keep Garrett fresh, because they need to be able to keep this defense fresh so they can really just make plays and help them win games. Be complementary. They need to be complementary to each other.
Yeah. That wraps up what I got to say. You go on the Browns?
Yeah, man. I think they just need to be able to peak in the postseason and the end down the stretch, like you were talking about with December and towards the winter. They need to be able to peak then and just hopefully sustain and get Deshaun's confidence back early.
Yeah, man. Let's head over to Pittsburgh now. What do you got in the Steelers, man? Talk to me.
Dude, this team is hard to imagine a way where they're successful. I know Tomlin's got the reputation. What is it? Now 20 years of no losing records.
Something like that, man. Yeah.
I just don't see a way where this team is able to sustain any kind of offensive success and play any kind of complimentary football. I've never really been a big Najee Harris guy. I mean, I've watched Justin, and it's hard to see him be like a shell of himself right now. When he was coming out of Ohio State, he had so much confidence and just like he felt and believed that he was the man, But when you see him run now, he doesn't look like himself. He's just hesitant. He's questioning everything he does. He doesn't trust the pockets, and it's like behind an offensive line like the Steelers got, I think I can't. If he gets on the field, I don't really see a way where that's successful. And then Russell, man, he's gonna be doing it himself. I don't see any kind of ground game coming out and just surprising people. I know they got Cordero Patterson, they got Jalen Warren, so they have some kind of speed to complement the bruiser of Najee Harris, but I just don't see a winning formula with the lack of talent and playmakers because you got George Pickens, but he's got this weird diva to him to where it's like he won't just stay on the field and run his routes hard and do his job all the time to where it's like you have to have that because these QBs need all the help they can get.
Yeah, I'm a huge George Pickens guy. I think he's
Super
one of the most talented guys. Like
talented.
He's such a – I think when you throw the ball up to him, it's more like 70-30 instead of 50-50, maybe even 80-20.
He's super talented. Size is overwhelming. He's got it all.
Yeah, it's just
physically,
like you said, kind of just like him and Deontay Johnson were probably the two, like the worst situation you could have as far as divas at receiver. I remember last year Deontay Johnson was like whining and moaning like mid-play and not blocking. Some dude just got lit up because he wasn't doing his job last year. And that's the same thing with Pickens, man. He doesn't really like to get into that run blocking game. You can tell if he's not getting the ball, he's not running his routes hard. It's tough because he's so talented. And then you got two guys that are, Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin. I mean, that's not really who you want to round out your top three receivers.
They need to be a 4 and a 5.
Yeah.
Ideally,
totally agree.
They need to be a 4 and a 5. You don't want these guys being relied upon as much as they're going to be. And it's just the situation it is. They are the 2 and the 3.
Yeah, and they drafted Rowan Wilson, which I liked. I think they're just kind of missing that number 2 receiver to kind of complement Pickens, maybe like a speed guy,
like a Chris Olave.
Yeah, that would be actually a
Something
great fit,
like
man. But as far as this quarterback play, man, you know it better than anybody with just Justin Fields signing. They got him for cheap. They got Wilson for cheap, so it's really not too much investment for the Steelers. But as far as this year, winning this year, comes down to quarterback play, man. And Wilson did not look good. There's a reason the Broncos moved off him last year. They were just not a fan of him at all.
Sean Payton never liked him.
Yeah, and Justin Fields, man, he's just lacking that little man. I don't know what's going on. Yeah,
the first game he ever played broke him. He got sacked 9 times, threw about for 40, 50 yards passing, and just he's never trusted an offensive line since. He does not sit and hang in the pocket and just make reads. There's questions about if he can read a defense. The athletic ability is been there. It's been evident since he was in college, but it's just the you're seeing him start to question himself when he runs the ball, even in the preseason. And it's like, this guy wasn't doing this 2 years ago. I think he's lost all belief in himself. And I think that's hard to see. I mean, ideally with this offense, if you wanted to do anything with the two QBs you got, I was saying like you use Justin like a running back in the 4th year of his contract. You go in on a rookie deal. You just go and you run all the QB run game stuff with him and see if you can get something going early on in the year and just really try to make it easy on him. And then you let Russ come in later on in the season and hopefully save the ship. But I mean, it's just he can't sit back in the pocket and read a defense and just like feel comfortable in the passing game. And you can see it every single play. But it's just Russell Wilson. This is not a guy at the stage of his career where you want him starting a full season. So it's like, I really think you're going to see both these guys play this year, but I really was kind of disappointed that they didn't utilize the gift they have of Justin on a rookie deal in the last year of it to go and just say, you know what, if he breaks down, he breaks down. But let's just go ahead and run him. Just go ahead and run him and take advantage of what he's good at. Yeah. And I think that that's a mistake on their part, and I think this team just feels like it's holding on a reputation at this point. It doesn't really feel like there's any winning formula for them.
Yeah, they're kind of just – they want to get back to that 500, one game above type of season, and that's just –
as keep that record up.
As a Steelers fan, like, there's really no direction here. I don't really see where Tomlin's, like, going with this team. It's not like they're rebuilding. Yeah, they're not like they're rebuilding. They're also not contending. So it's like, all right, you're just going to be mid. You had that great season with AB and Roethlisberger back, 2018, 2019, when he had that stud defense too. But that's a long time ago, man, and that's a lot to hold on to if you're a Steelers fan. I'm talking like the Cardinals have been like good recently, but I think I see the direction with them at least. You know what I mean? With the Steelers team, I don't really see that like path of how they're going to get back to win Super Bowls. So
they haven't been drafting well for a couple of years now. You know, they haven't been drafting well, and I think that's where it all starts. If you're not drafting well, you're seeing all these guys start to age on the roster now, and this is a team that builds through the draft like the Packers, you know?
Yeah.
They don't want to bring in off-season free agents and trade for guys. They want to build and grow all their talent. And when you're not doing that and you're not adding guys, this roster is just slowly getting worse and worse. And it feels like this is the year where it's kind of like a tipping point where they've been holding on to a reputation. I don't think they can hold on to it because you look at this defense, it's all hanging on T.J. Watt at this point. If anything happens to T.J. Watt, this is one of the worst defenses in the league. And I mean, like, the secondary, you got Minka, but outside of Minka, there's nobody you look at where this is a guy we can rely upon, you know? And when you just feel that way and you're having to, like, guard weaknesses in the secondary and you don't have a lot of guys who can win one-on-one. I know they got an opposite pass rusher other than TJ. I forget the name of the guy.
Ogunjobi and Cam Hayward.
Cam Hayward's still there, but he's like Cameron Jordan. They're very comparable to where they're both inside guys at this stage of their career that are just stable, but you're not winning with them anymore. And then what's the outside linebacker edge rusher opposite of?
Talking about like Highsmith?
Highsmith, yes, Alex Highsmith. I kept forgetting his name.
Yeah.
But Highsmith has been a productive guy. But, I mean, if he is your one and for any reason T.J. Watt's not there, this team's going down. It's like they're just holding on to reputation, man.
Yeah, I think with Joey Porter Jr., I think that was a good pick for them. He's kind of a little crash out, man. I don't know what's going on with him.
Yeah.
He's got to tone back the holding and the DPIs, but he's extremely talented. As far as, like, they got Dante Jackson, he's fine. He was one of the best safeties in the league. I think he's kind of on the decline. I think he's still great, but I think his best years are definitely behind him. They picked up Patrick Queen, kind of a weird signing, like signing him from the Ravens, but, like, he's going to help out. I think I'm a huge Peyton Wilson guy. For the Wolfpack last year, he was everywhere for them. I think he had, like, far and away the most tackles by like 20. I think he had like 100 solo tackles last year. And he's just a sideline guy who they're going to have Patrick Queen be more of that like stable guy in the middle, kind of like that rock. And they're just going to take Peyton off his leash and just let him just run wild and just make plays. TJ Watt, obviously one of the best pass rushers in the league. And you got Cam Hayward, who's an ageless wonder up there with Ogunjobi. I don't think this defense defense is like that bad, I just don't see this offense being able to kind of complement them.
Exactly.
I think if anything, if I were to talk about a winning formula with the Steelers team, I think Najee and Jalen Warren have got to have like 200 carries each, and they're gonna have to limit Wilson and Fields throwing the ball
Najee's
as
just
much as
so
they.
hard to watch, man. He just feels like he's in quicksand.
Yeah,
Like he just doesn't go, And I don't know what it is. It's kind of like almost watching like Trent Richardson, back in the day with like the Browns and they drafted him high. It's like watching him. And it's just I don't know why they drafted him in the first round and like he looks like a Steeler. But it's just like with the amount this defense is going to be on the field because this offense, that's where I have concerns. I think that if they're able to play complementary ball, I think they're okay. They'll be right around that 9-8 mark again. But my problem is I don't think this QB situation is going to allow that, and I think they're going to be struggling to stay on the field as an offense and sustain drives. And it's like I don't think they got guys that can put the ball in the end zone. I mean, they got a little bit of speed at the 2 and 3 at running back, but I mean, those are the guys you're relying upon to just make something happen on offense.
yeah. Let's head over to the Cincinnati Bengals now. They get Burrow back fully healthy finally. What are your thoughts on them?
Well, they need Jamar Chase. I mean,
He was back at practice yesterday. I don't know if you saw him with his
they
pads.
need him. I mean, it's like I was thinking about something funny the other day. I was like, imagine this Bengals offense if they just didn't have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins because T is on the last year of his deal and Jamar is not signed. Imagine what this offense would look like without those two. I think they're kind of playing games a little bit too much with them, and they just got to commit. I think that I like a guy like Zach Moss, adding him into the backfield. I think he's been an underutilized guy through his career. He was with Buffalo to start out, and you had kind of fumbling issues, ball security, to where it was just they didn't trust him with the rock. And I think he got to the Colts, and he actually got some more utilization last year. He can do both. He can play pass game. He can catch the ball. I haven't seen too much of him as a pass blocker. I'm not familiar with his game with that. But the rushing style, I think, is like an identity type of rushing style that you can get behind where he can take it the distance, but he's also super physical and also hungry for a starting role like this. I know some people have been talking and they kind of like his backup Chase Brown. I didn't really see much from him. I wasn't too high on him. But I really do believe like Zach Moss is a player that you can pound the rock with at times when you need to. This offensive line is massive. I mean, it's what Joe Burrow needs. He's got everything he needs to cook with, and they got 3 at receiver now, if all of them are on the field, with Jermaine Burton as well. So they got 3 guys that can win one-on-one. So, I mean, when they drop back to pass, it's going to be tough for opposing defenses.
Yeah, I just think they need to kind of limit. I know Joe Burrow can go up there and be the hero. I know he can throw 40 attempts a game and have a great game. But in terms of longevity, and we've seen Burrow struggle with his health,
yes,
I think they do need to kind of lean on that running back room more. I was more of a Chase Brown guy, it sounds like, than you. I think he's kind of with Zach Moss being like a bigger, more physical back, I think he's a good complement to him on third down. Just kind of give defenses a different look, you know what I mean?
Keep him fresh at least keep him fresh. I think you go ahead on Chase.
But Burton, man, I think I liked him a lot coming out of the draft. You add him to this stacked receiver room, and you just be like, hey, man, Jamar's gonna get bracketed with safety help over the top. You got T. Higgins on the outside, and then you got this guy against some poor third corner, just gonna cook him. It's gonna be, I think he's gonna have a sneaky good rookie campaign, but yeah, like you said, this Bengals team, as long as Joe Burrow's healthy, they're going to be right back in the playoffs this year again. So.
Oh yeah, offense and defensively.
Yeah.
I mean, one guy too I want to touch on. They got at tight end Mike Gesicki. I mean, that dude's just an athletic freak. I'm interested to see if any team ever unlocks him. I don't know what it is, but I always thought he should have more production. And I mean, you were talking about Jermaine Burton. That guy's going to be left one-on-one all day long. You have too many other threats to where this offensive line is going to be able to hold up against 4. You're going to have to bring 5. You're going to have to bring blitzes to get pressure on Burrow. And, I mean, you're going to be leaving these guys one-on-one. This passing game is going to be sick to watch this year.
Yeah, man, let's head over to the defense now. What are your thoughts on them? They have kind of like a Walmart version of Max Crosby and Trey Henderson.
Yeah,
but,
Walmart version for sure.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think that it's interesting because they're very versatile all throughout the defense, and I think they have the ability to kind of match up on the back end. I know they lost some guys. I think they lost, was it Chidobe Awuzie? They had lost. But, I mean, they got the Dax Hill, who they're now going to be playing at corner, who's a really crazy athlete. I'm interested to see how that develops. But they bring back Von Bell as well, I believe, and I think they're going to try to stabilize that secondary a little bit just to be more solid throughout the defense. I like their linebackers. They can kind of run, defend, and also get into coverage and play well and be stable through there as well. But this D-line, it's just got guys they can just rotate and keep fresh. You know, Trey Hendrickson, like you said, he's a guy that teams have to game plan for. And when you got that, he's a multiplier for the rest of the defensive line. Like we were talking about the Rams and Aaron Donald. When you have that one guy who you cannot leave one-on-one, or you worry about him strip sacking the QB, pushing the pocket, getting the QB off his mark, forcing bad throws, you have to adjust for that one player as an offense. It opens up everybody else.
Yeah, they backed up that secondary. They got Cam Taylor-Britt. You mentioned Von Bell, Juno Stone, Dax Hill, Mike Hilton. Like, that's a very above-average secondary throughout. I think some other teams might have, like, all right, what Steelers have, Minka Fitzpatrick, and they got, like, Emerson. Like, They got some guys that are kind of, like, lackluster, and as a whole, they might be good overall because of that one guy. But I think this is more of, like, a solid secondary than some other secondaries we'll get into later. But, yeah, man, just this offense needs to keep this defense off the field as much as possible, keep these guys fresh, and then you do have some talent on this defense where you guys can get stops and get the ball back in Joe Burrow's hands. Anything else you want to touch on there?
I think that defense just needs to be able to create some turnover. When we talk about like winning formulas, there's teams that play complementary football and the D can get stops on defense, keep the offense fresh, and they can complement each other. I think this team just needs to be able to create turnovers on the defense and just keep feeding the offense opportunities to where they can put up points because they will.
Yeah. Let's head over to the AFC South now. Let's get into the Houston Texans. What do you think about them?
Man, I think this is the opportunity for them to be the best team in the AFC. I look at the offensive line and just I'm so impressed with Stroud. I didn't see this type of play, but the way he just sits in the pocket and just picks teams apart with confidence and just moves throughout, steps up. I'm just so impressed by his play and his pocket presence and maturity as a quarterback. I mean, when you have that with these kinds of weapons they now have on offense, the sky's the limit. I think this could be the best scoring team and the highest scoring team in the league with you got Nico Collins now and Stephon Diggs now. And then you got Tank Dell as the 3. Tank Dell's got some Antonio Brown to him. You know, he's got this knack for, like, making guys miss when they're trying to tackle him. And he's small and shifty, yeah, but the way he just kind of shrugs guys off him and just keeps them guessing with his moves is just – I think it's kind of it's something special that is instinctual play that I'm really excited to see be a third, not even a 1 or have to be a 2, you know? So you got Joe Mixon in the backfield, who's a dual threat out of the backfield. You can run and catch. And then behind him, you got Dameon Pierce, who's just a wear on the defense, similar to Tajay Spears kind of guy. So I'm super stoked to see what this offense can do. And they've invested in the line over the years as well. So the sky's the limit really for them because of the play and the maturity that they've seen from the QB position. And they look like they're ready to roll in preseason.
I'm going to have a little bit of a controversial. I don't know if it's we're going to think about this, but I don't think Stroud is going to have that great of a year. I think he's going to finish as maybe QB 14, 15, really? Kind of middle of the pack. Yeah.
Whoa, really?
Here's the thing, man. If you go back and look at the tape, first few weeks popped off. Everyone is okay. CJ Stroud. The Panthers messed up. They got the guy. Texans got their guy.
Yeah.
Right. And then you go towards the end of the season, I think he started to get kind of figured out a little bit. He doesn't have that crazy mobility to like extend plays. And I think that might be what keeps him from really getting into that elite extender level type of guy, because he's a true pocket passer, and man, he can dice up a defense if given time. But I think he's missing that little like play extender, like that Mahomes in him, where he can get out of the pocket and make something happen. I think he's going to have a solid year. I'm not going to say he's going to be bad. I'm not saying this Texans team is going to be bad. They gave him weapons. They signed Joe Mixon, like you talked about. But I think this Houston Texans team has such a high expectations going into this season, especially with this. I think this AFC South is sneaky good. I think the Jaguars are poised for a bounce back year. I know Trevor Lawrence, we'll get into him in a second, but this Texans team, man, I think their offense is stacked. I'm a big Dalton Schultz guy. I think he's solid. They got Laramie Tunsil as like their franchise tackle. They're solid, man. I'm not going to say they're going to be bad. I think they're kind of going to be around where they finished last year, though, with like that 9-10 win total. So, yeah, man, That's my take.
Bold take. I like it. I like that. You know, when you look at C.J. Stroud, his skill set is kind of like a Geno Smith. You know, what Geno has showed with the Seahawks, Stroud and Smith are kind of comparable in terms of skill set. So, I mean, I could see where you're talking about the play extender, X factor on the move type of thing missing. And that is a potential downside for them. I just think that they have so many weapons that they're going to just be able to execute. And when the way CJ Stroud throws with anticipation, moves in the pocket, and just like, I think the offensive line is solidified over this past couple of years. I think they're going to be just such a high functioning offense that I'm stoked to see them. And their OC came back as well. So I think if they have continuity like they do, I'm really excited to see what kind of role they can like have for like Nico. Because they got Nico Collins, 6'4", massive receiver who's physical, and then you got Stephon, who's, you don't want to leave him one-on-one with the corner because he will route them up.
Yep.
And then Tank Dell, you can get him design touches, and he's going to be left one-on-one, just like we were talking about Jermaine Burton. And same exact thing, dude. They're going to be able to be creative on offense, and I think they're going to be very high-functioning just because they're so sound across the board at every position. And, I mean, the defense as well, I think kind of highly of them.
I was gonna touch. I'll start us off with the defense now.
Yeah, go ahead.
They signed. I don't even understand how get Danielle Hunter, bro. How is that?
He's gonna be the 2.
Well, I don't even know who's the 1 and 2, but I know they're gonna be good because Will Anderson's a monster. He's in his first year he's taken on a huge role as being the primary guy to stop the run and rush the passer.
Yes.
He did outstanding. And then you add Danielle Hunter. You got Azeez Al-Shaair. You got Derek Stingley. I'm tripping for this. I was a huge Kamari Lassiter guy. I think he's a guy who plays way faster than those measurables that he tested for. I think he ran like a 4.6 or something where he kind of dropped in the draft. I was begging the Cardinals to take him because we were lacking at secondary, and then the Texans took him. I was like, there we go. Another great pick by the Texans. But you got Derek Stingley Jr. He doesn't have to be the one Lassiter. You know what I mean? Like he can be a guy that takes chances or allows Stingley to take chances. And then you got Jimmy Ward and Jalen Petrie. If Jalen Petrie just cleans up a little bit, man.
Love Petrie.
Yeah, if he just cleans up some mistakes a little bit and is more consistent, this secondary is no joke. They're gonna look so much better because they're gonna have only a second to throw the ball because of the 2 guys getting after the quarterback, man. So I think this is where the Texans, you can talk about all their offseason additions on offense. I think that Danielle Hunter signing is the biggest one, the free agency, in terms of immediate impact for a defense. Yeah. And with this Texans team, I think it's going to be more, all right, Stroud might not be as effective and as like eye-popping off the screen this season, but this defense is going to get him the ball right back in his hands and allow him to make those plays. So I think that's where this Texans team is very complimentary. We're going to use that word again, but go ahead.
I think that the one thing I worry about with this defense is the gut of the defense with the D tackle and linebackers. I mean, I don't see a lot of depth and strength in that area. And then when you're weak in the middle, if you face a team like the Bengals that's got big ass tackles that are going to be able to go one on one with your guys, and if they can run inside on you, and then you're having to worry about the run, you're getting gashed inside, and then all of a sudden you're leaving guys on the outside one on one with like if they played a team like the Bengals, I think it'd be a really tough game for them defensively. I think that's where like this team is going to be able to put up points, I believe. So I think it's going to result in them winning games. But when they played certain teams that have really good tackles, I think that's the only way I'm really seeing this thing potentially struggle defensively because they are a weak interior. But I mean, I'm just having faith in a guy like D'Amico Ryans because they signed him, and it's his identity. And, you know, like his whole thing is defense. He came from the Niners. He's bringing over that physical style. So I'm just buying into that he will bring stout physical defense, and I don't think that it'll be an issue. But this defense does look like it's maybe an off season away from being like upper end of the league, tops of the league. I do think they can get taken advantage of if they face a team with tough tackles.
Couldn't agree more, man. Let's head over to the Jacksonville Jaguars now. What are your thoughts on them?
They're a total projection as a team. And I mean, I like a lot of the offensive talent. I think this season is going to obviously they just paid Trevor, so they obviously believe. And I mean, the same thing with the Packers. They project Jordan Love to continue to play well as well. You know, it's just this team is a very big projection because yeah, they've won games. They started out 8-3, but they're just struggle against the higher end teams in the league, and they got all the weapons, you know, and they're investing in the offensive line, and they have ETN and their backup running back as well. He looked like he actually has more juice this year to bring a more physical presence that they haven't had. They've kind of been soft for years. So, I mean, I think with those two receivers they got with Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas, if you can play so many games with guys like that with their size, speed, and athletic ability, you don't want to leave guys like that one-on-one. Because if they overwhelm a smaller corner with their size and athletic ability, they're beating them. So now what does that do? That opens up the underneath for guys like Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, Travis Etienne out of the backfield to run his option routes and use his athletic ability underneath to get the ball in his hands. So I think the underneath and intermediate game is going to be super fun to see how they use that. But this team has a super athletic skill set with their skill positions. So I'm excited to see what Trevor does with them, but it is a total projection because he hasn't put up major production to this point.
Yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to bounce back in a huge way this year. I think I took Brian Thomas Jr. as my late round flyer in our draft because I think
he looks sick.
He has everything you want, and I think the criticism on him was, all right, his route tree is not developed at all yet. All right,
said the same about DK Metcalf. Exactly. Oh, he only runs slants and go balls. And well, he does it better than everybody else in the league. And dude's 6'3" and 230, bro. Yeah. What are you gonna do? And he runs a 4.3.
Same thing with Justin Jefferson. Coming out of LSU, more like LSU to LSU comparison. Justin Jefferson's one of the best receivers in this entire league, and his criticism was, can he run the full route tree? I think with Brian Thomas Jr., he can do it. He just wasn't asked to because he got guys at LSU that can fill those roles. He was just going to be that take the top off the defense type of guy, and now he's going to be in an offense where he can really be the true X and be just a huge.
He is the X.
Yeah, he's going to be the guy. I think Gabe Davis is kind of washed in my opinion. I think Evan Ingram, you took him in your draft for your team. Man. You're a big Evan Ingram guy. Yeah, man, I think this offense is sneaky scary. I think a lot of tensions on the Texans, like we talked about. The Colts getting AR-15 back, but like I said, I think this AFC South is going to be very tight come December, January. So we'll see. Anything else you want to touch on the offense? Or?
Evan Ingram. Yeah. Evan Ingram and Travis Etienne, I think, are going to have massive seasons. I really want to see Doug Peterson use Etienne in the pass game more, being like an Alvin Kamara was for the Saints when he was in his prime. You know, I think there's an untapped side of that to where, like, he could have, like, 70 catches.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's just like You want a guy like that to have the ball in his hands, and I think they need to do a better job of utilizing him. We'll see if people start to question Doug if he doesn't get the most out of these guys, Doug Peterson being that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Evan Ingram, dude, you got him in the slot, and you're leaving him one-on-one with safeties and linebackers. He's a receiver that plays tight end. Ball skills, athletic ability, dude. He does it all, really, in the receiving game. He had 140 targets last year. I don't see why he doesn't do it again. With these guys, they're going to threaten down the field. So,
oh yeah,
um,
man.
Defensively,
Yeah, man. Defensively, let's head over to them.
yeah,
I'm looking at the depth chart right now.
his sus, bro.
They signed Eric Armstead. He's kind of towards the tail end of his career. They got Josh Allen, which he's legit, man.
Josh is legit.
He's a big difference maker. And then you got Trayvon Walker, man. What is up with that guy? I don't understand where that guy. I forgot that dude existed. He's almost.
But he had 10 sacks. He had sacks, but he didn't affect the game.
Sacks are such a they're such a stat. I'm blanking on the word, but they're just not a very meaningful stat
Doesn't
because
represent the play.
yeah, if Eric Armstead and Josh Allen crash the pocket and Trayvon Walker runs into a sack, yeah, he gets the sack, but was it really him doing the damage?
Yeah,
no.
of course.
So, yeah, I think that D-line is all right. I think it's the secondary where we're really going to have some questions. They signed Darnell Savage. He's actually solid. I'm a big fan of him. But other than that, man, they got Ronald Darby, Tyson Campbell. They don't really have any outside guys where you're going to go up against a receiver. And you're you playing good receivers, man. We talked about the receiving core in Houston. You got Indianapolis. We'll talk about next, and you got Tennessee. Yeah,
alive, bro.
When freaking D-Hop comes back, they're gonna have Calvin Ridley D-Hop. I know he's towards the end of his career, but still he's solid. I think that's gonna be the downfall of this team is like that secondary. What are your thoughts on the defense?
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's just you look at this defense, and it's outside of Josh Allen. What do they do? There's no identity on defense, and they're just soft. Offenses are going to be able to come into games against Jacksonville, and they're going to be able to dictate to them what they want to do because there's nobody who just wins. There's just guys out there who are serviceable in the secondary, at linebacker. They got guys who make tackles, and the guys have sacks on the D-line, and there's names. But who are you looking at that is going to win reps for you one-on-one, outside of Josh Allen, whether it's at corner, whether it's at linebacker beating a guard, whether it's at D-tackle winning a pass rush. There's no guy that you look at and say, we have to prepare for him. And when there's a defense like that is soft and probably not going to be able to stop the run very well, there's going to be a lot of games where they're going to have to be putting up points. They're going to get in a lot of shootouts.
Yeah, that's why I think Trevor Lawrence is kind of poised for a big year because of having played from behind. I think it's kind of what we talked on K1 last year or yesterday. I think he's going to be a lot of game scripts where he's going to be like, all right, I'm going to go score a touchdown. Oh, it's tied already. Oh, we're down.
Now it's 14-0.
Yeah, it's 14-0.
I got to go put up 40.
Exactly. I think we're thinking the same thing there, but
Tyson Campbell's a player that you would love to have as your two.
Yep. I think you're 100%
You would love
right.
to have him as your two. I don't hate Tyson Campbell.
Yep.
But I think that when they're just not adding guys that are quality starters, they're adding guys that you want to have as like rotational pieces on the defense. And, the Texans did that when they were rebuilding. Why are the Jaguars doing that right now? They need to be all in on this defense because it's going to bite them in the season when they're not able to get to the win totals they want to get to succeed.
Yeah. Let's head over to Indianapolis now. Talk about the Colts, man. I'll give you the floor about this offense.
I mean, it's very similar to what we said about the Ravens. It's all about that QB run game and the threats out of the backfield, whether it's QB or running back, because you got a guy that can hit the home run, run inside, run outside. And the QB, I mean, we haven't seen a rushing threat, size, speed, athletic ability since Cam Newton. I mean, you had Justin Fields, you had Lamar Jackson. Kyler's a great athlete, but a dude that's built like this doesn't really come around often. Now we just got to see if he can be mature and protect himself. And there's some guys that they think they're just bigger than everybody else in the field. But, I mean, Cam Newton, I used to watch him. I loved Cam Newton. Dude had pads for every dang part
Yep.
of his body, bro. He had shin pads. He had elbow pads. Freaking forearm pads, bro. Who else has forearm pads, bro? Dude,
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson
I don't
needs
know.
to go look at pictures of Cam Newton and lock in, dude, because he needs to pad up because he's going to be needing to be physical and allow that to shine because
Those
they
bubble
got
wrapper in there.
receivers
Yeah.
that can counter his athletic ability in the
Yeah.
passing game, and he's got an arm on him, but you need to be able to open everything else up off the run. You know, I like these receivers they got. They got a top 3 that I'm excited about. But it's just I want to see him mature, you know, and we'll see how long that takes because it better happen fast because he can't have another season where he's getting banged up early on.
Yeah. I just want to touch on Adonai Mitchell real quick. I think for whatever reason, this guy was getting a lot of hate coming out of the draft with like his attitude problems and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if I was talking to you or my father about it, but he's such a dynamic and explosive athlete, and
Crazy athlete.
the only reason he fell in the draft was his quote unquote attitude off the field issues.
There's some weird stuff about him. I don't know.
Do you know what happened? Actually, he's a diabetic.
I didn't know he was diabetic, but I knew that there was like quotes about him saying stuff like, "Oh, I'd take plays off because I want to stay fresh down the course." And I mean, any coach that hears that is just like face palming. No coach wants to hear that.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'll see if like he's able to get because I mean, you're in college, you're not going to get the right assistants to manage something like diabetes. I wasn't super familiar with that. I mean, they used to say Jay Cutler had diabetes, so that's why he had a lot of the issues he had. I don't know this kid that well, but I know the skill set. It's dynamic, just like you said. You can win one-on-one with a guy that's got size, speed, ball skills, and that dog in him. He's got that dog in him for sure, bro.
For sure.
And I hope that he can kind of figure some of that out because he is so dynamic, you know?
Yeah. And they have that. He's not like their 1 or their 2. He's their 3 behind 2 very talented receivers in front of him.
He'll be
Pittman
the 2.
Jr. You think?
Put Josh Downs in the slot.
Yeah. Just looking. Yeah, that's actually you're right. You're right. He'll probably be. I think they'll move Josh Downs a lot. Just kind of just around the field. But I mean, to be the guy, not necessarily be the guy, but like be the guy behind Pittman to be like, all right, I'm gonna be. Pittman's more that like physical at the catch, point receiver, just kind of going up and getting footballs. He's got some dynamic to him, but A.D. Mitchell is just that guy where you're like, all right, give that dude the ball and just let him go make a play for you. I'm a big AR-15 guy. I just want him to stay healthy, man. I know he got hurt last year, and I don't know if his play style is going to be a recipe for longevity for him. But in terms for this season, I think he's going to be dominant. They get Jonathan Taylor back, obviously one of the best backs in the league. But yeah, man, I think they're going to be this. Like I said, I'm going to keep saying it. AFC South is a division to watch where you have 4 pretty solid teams, and usually you have that one like kind of shitty team at the back end. But Tennessee, they made moves this season to kind of get better quick. Let's talk about this defense though, real quick. What are your thoughts on them?
This defense, I mean, what Eberflus did with his time there was he would have crazy athletes on the defense, whether it's D-line, linebackers, secondary. He would have crazy athletes, and he would make this defense simple for him. He had his 3 positions that he loved with the will linebacker, the 3 technique, and then the nickel corner. Like, they still got the nickel. They still got the 3 technique. Linebackers, all right. And they lost Darius Leonard he just kind of fell off a cliff, which was tough to see. But I mean, they're basically trying to do the same thing they did with Eberflus, but without the coach. And I think it hasn't been as effective. They got a guy like Latu, who I do like, and I think could step in as a 1. You know, he could step in as a 1. And I think that he looks kind of like Alden. He looks kind of like Alden Smith. You know, like Alden Smith for the Niners back in the early 2010s before he had his issues and fell off.
Yeah.
But I think Latu kind of looks a lot like Alden Smith, and I think he could step in and be a 1 right away. But they got guys to complement on that D-line as well. They're going to be able to get after the QB, but it's just about, can these guys make plays on the ball in the second levels? I think they can. They got athletes. That's what they draft for to do. So we'll just see if they can scheme up to do it.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect example of your D-line going to make this secondary look way better than it is.
Yes.
I think
for sure.
you got Buckner, you touched on it, Latu, man. He is unbelievable. I think he was one of the best, like, watching his tape. He is a freak, dude. I don't want to compare him to Aaron Donald because he's not Aaron Donald, but he's like that undersized guy where he has the leverage battle won already just based on size, but he also changes pad level and gets underneath guys and just
he's a long dude.
Yeah, it's really odd his build, but
bro is elongated.
Seriously, man. But yeah, looking at this defense, I lost my train of thought. Looking at Latu, just infatuated with this guy. But we're hey, pause. But let's move on to this Tennessee team because I'm itching to talk about Will Levis here.
You a Levis guy?
I am. I think he's
cool.
I think he's a cool guy.
I don't think he's bad.
I
don't think he's trash.
I don't know. I was a big Ridley guy before he kind of got in his little betting scandal. I think he was a stud.
I don't blame him, bro. I like it too.
Yeah, honestly, can't blame the guy. But
especially if I actually had money, bro, like these guys in the NFL, dude, bro. What?
Yeah.
Dude, I put together a little parlay where I got like 2-3 teams. I'm like, bro, I can turn this 10,000 into 40,000. Wait a second, bro.
Yeah.
If I had money like him, bro, I don't play it. And he was betting on his own. Did he bet on his team or did he bet on to lose? I think he was betting on the Falcons.
Yeah,
I think he was, bro.
I think he was too. And shoot.
Hey, bro, I bet on my guys. He just actually did it with money.
Yeah, seriously. But we'll get to the running back room now with Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. I think Tony Pollard's going to have a little bounce back here because all the weight is not on his shoulders, and I think this split is going to be more 50-50. I'm a big Pollard guy, and I'm a big Tajay Spears guy too. I think he was kind of in the shadow of Derrick Henry for a while because Derrick Henry is such a big name and such a successful guy, but I think this split is going to be more 50-50 than people think. I think it's similar skill sets. They can run the same type of plays with them. They signed Ridley. They got D-Hop, who's going to be out the first few weeks. But they signed Tyler Boyd, too, as like a good 3. I'm actually pretty high on this Titans offense if Will Levis can continue to be what we saw last year and have those flashes. But he just got to be more consistent. What do you think?
A lot of what you said. I think Will Levis has all the tools to be a good NFL QB, and I like his build as well. You know, he's got a strong arm. He can move. He is physical. He'll put his shoulder down maybe too much, but I really do like the build of a QB like Will Levis. And, I mean, like you were saying about Pollard, dude is great as a rotational guy where he can keep the juice and stay fresh. I think he's more of a complete back at this point than Tajay Spears. I think Spears needs a year or two before he's really going to be able to step in and break out. But, I mean, you're looking at two guys that can have a season like the Panthers used to have with Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams. You got two guys just like that can go 1-2 and put up close to 1,000 yards rushing. This is a back rotation that will definitely be split down the middle. And, I mean, if you can set up Will with play action and make reads simple for him, Duke can fit it into any window. He's got a crazy arm as well. And, I mean, this team is all going to be about coaching, offensively, defensively, everywhere. We're going to know how good these coaches are pretty quick. And, I mean, a lot of people like the head coach coming over as the OC from the Buccaneers. We'll see. I'm waiting to see with that. But, I mean, I think this team has pieces to function and be able to take advantage of defenses if they are coached up and schemed properly.
I totally agree. I think they had some big offseason additions where you think this Titans team might take a route of rebuild, maybe just kind of get some guys around Will Levis through the drafts.
I thought they were going to be the worst team in the league before they signed all these guys. I actually thought that.
Every notification that came up on my phone was the Titans are signing someone. I'm like, what are they doing?
They're in Washington, bro.
Seriously, but they have guys. I mean, this D line is kind of where I'm like very hesitant. I think they got Devondre Sweat, Joseph Day. They have Arden Key too. They signed Ernest Jones, who is solid.
Yes.
And then they got the secondary, man. You got Uzier and you got L'Jarius Sneed is probably one of the better quarterback or cornerback tandems in the league.
Sneed is really nice when he's utilized properly.
Yes,
These
yes.
corners need to be up in the receiver's face and be able to be physical, but
Yeah.
because they have all the bully in them to be able to do that, they got length and size and physicality to do that.
Yeah, I think they're just they're gonna be at the mercy of how much pressure they can get from this D line and front seven because they're very talented. Amani Hooker and Quandre Diggs, they have
Quandre.
very, very good safeties too.
I'm a fan of Quandre.
Looking at this defense, I'm pretty impressed by what they were able to do in just an offseason.
Yes.
But this is where I'm going to kind of get to my negatives about this team is like, what is the vision necessarily here? Because I want to see teams that are either in a complete rebuild and you can see the direction they want to go, or making moves to be a championship contender. The Titans made moves, but they are nowhere near being a championship contender at all. And that's my only gripe with this Titans team is like they went out and got guys, man. But are those guys really going to put you in that like Super Bowl conversation? Not even close. Really not even close with this Titans team. So that's kind of my take about the Titans. It's like I like what they did in terms of winning this season from what they had last year. But then how are they going to look in the future? What do you think?
How are they going to look in the future is very dependent on their success this year. I think a lot of what they're doing is to create a level of buy-in that this team is building for something and this team has pieces to work with and the coaching staff is legit. Because if this coach is something like a McVay, they've got pieces to work with on offense and they've got skill sets on defense specifically. I mean, you got the D line and they have studs inside. They brought in a linebacker to make sure that gut of the defense, like the Texans are lacking, Titans have that. Jeffrey Simmons is an absolute monster. And then they got edges as well that you can be creative with. You can drop them. You can create pressure and send them out the edge. And hopefully with the interior, you can be able to force teams into third and longs and then be able to make a team pass the ball. This team wants to force teams into the pass. They brought in Jamal Adams to play on early downs, probably play in the box, play linebacker a little bit so they can create some athletic ability and run stopping. But, I mean, this whole defense and offense are both dependent on coaching to get the most out of the skill sets. But they do have defined skill sets at safety with Malik Hooker and Quandre Diggs. And, I mean, I got the name wrong. What was the opposite safety? I forget his name.
I just closed out my tab. Go ahead.
The opposite safety across from him. I do like him as well. Malik Hooker's the
Tariq Hooker, maybe?
No, bro. See, I got the name wrong. But I
just
do
throwing
like
shit out there and see what sticks.
I really do like Quandre Diggs as a safety who can play single high and roam. I do like him as a matchup guy as well. The two corners that they got, I mean, you can play them physical and you can really get in these receivers' face. I think they really just are going to be dependent on coaching. And you just want to be competitive, be fringe playoff, build a level of buy-in that they are actually working with something here and they have something to go forward with in the future.
Yeah, man. You good on them? You good on the Titans?
What was that safety's name? Did you get it or no?
Nah,
yeah.
I'm already on the Bills, man. I'm looking at this Buffalo Bills team, and I'm just kind of wondering who's going to step up at receiver. And I got some guys, and I think they will step up. I'm a huge Keon Coleman guy. I think before I really plant my flag on this guy, I understand he's going to need some time to kind of sharpen that route running up, because at Florida State he was really just a physical specimen and just going up and making crazy plays. He's got to kind of refine that route running more. But in terms of what I've heard and seen from Josh Allen, he's kind of going to kind of step into that X right away and be a guy where Josh Allen's like, all right, I have a big physical receiver on the outside. Josh, we know, is not afraid to let the ball fly. So I think if Keon Coleman kind of gets that rapport with Josh Allen and kind of gets that dialed in, that chemistry, he could be a problem. I'm a big Khalil Shakir guy. I took him in both my leagues because I think there's really no true number one receiver. And if they do go with Keon Coleman on the outside, they're going to utilize Khalil Shakir in just a variety of ways. And then you got James Cook, man, who is going to have a monster year. With this new OC, they were trying to
James Cook is that dude here.
Yeah, they're going to use him so much. Just crazy to think that they got Dalvin Cook a few years ago, and now you had James Cook as one of the best, most dynamic backs in the league. I think he finishes.
Like,
I don't know.
Who are their parents, bro?
I don't know, but I'm trying to have kids like that, bro.
Whoever their parents are, they got crazy genes, bro.
Yeah.
Because you put out 2 running backs that are just studs, dude. They like the speed they have, and to be big like they are. I mean, dude, who are their parents, bro? They got to be some like Olympic athletes or something, bro. I don't know who the Cook parents are, but
we'll dive into the Cook parents.
They put out some genes, bro, for real.
We'll do a deep dive of the Cook parents after this video, but we'll go into. I think other than Mahomes, you can kind of put Mahomes, Allen, and Lamar in this top 3 tandem. Yeah. Josh Allen's just that guy, bro. He's such a leader, and he's kind of taking on that responsibility more as like, all right, we do lose some guys. We'll talk about the defense in a second. This is going to be his team to lead, and I'm excited to see what he does. I hope it doesn't happen the first week. I hope they're still working out some kinks against the Cardinals. But what are your thoughts on this offense, man?
I think we're going to need to see some evolution out of Josh Allen's game. I mean, we've seen Josh Allen be the threat down the field where he's always hunting that big play, you know, but you like Keon Coleman. I'm not too crazy about him. He kind of reminds me of like Laquan Treadwell in a lot of ways.
Okay.
And I mean, Laquan, like he couldn't win one-on-one really. And he didn't have, like, overwhelming speed. He had size and ball skills to where he could win a jump ball sometimes. And Laquan's still hanging on in the league. He's not like a guy where, oh, he's trash, get out of here. But, I mean, like, I wonder what kind of role he's going to play. I think they're going to need to scheme him up. He's got some athletic ability, so if you can get him one-on-one with a smaller guy, use him as a big slot, you get him moving. I think I'm excited to see how they can do that. But I think, look, the guys that I look at this year, they're going to be massive is Dalton Kincaid, him in his ability to be a guy that they can have reliable hands and to count on, kind of like, and have chemistry with Josh, the way that the Mahomes and Kelsey connection is. They need to be able to have something like that because Mahomes and Kelsey, everything around them changes, but they have that chemistry to win over the middle of the field and on crucial downs, back, shoulders, chemistry type of plays. We need to see some Dalton Kincaid emergence and some chemistry built with Josh because Josh isn't going to be able to hunt the big play as much. And, I mean, I like a guy like Curtis Samuel. He's hung around forever, you know, and he's never really been a top-flight player. But in terms of, like, a skill set of a guy that you can get the ball in his hands and have him make a play, I like him in the receiving room a little bit, and I think he's going to get a lot of schemed-up touches. Khalil Shakir is a good slot option as well. He's fairly reliable, and as long as they got other options where they're just keeping the defense guessing, all these guys will get their touches. But James Cook is going to need to be able to create some big plays for them in the run game because if they're not able to run the ball and Josh is still hunting those big plays, those turnover issues that we saw last year from Josh, I think could continue into this year. So we're going to need to see some evolution of his game.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I mentioned this on my my college football podcast, but I'm a huge Dalton Kincaid guy, and
nice, bro.
He's going to be a monster because they really don't have that true number one guy coming into the season. And towards the end of the season last year, you saw that kind of chemistry build him with Josh Allen, and you saw him going him a lot more in the passing game, man. I think he's going to be a stud this year. They're going to ask a lot out of him, but in terms of fantasy purposes, I think it's going to be him, McBride, and Travis just up there as the top 3 guys, I think, in my opinion.
Yes.
Let's go over to this defense now, man. They have a lot of questions and a lot of work to do. What do you think?
Especially with Matt Milano going down. You know, the thing with the Niners, you know, we got this defensive head coach. He's great. But the thing with the 49ers is they got these veterans that are just sturdy, know the system, play fast, play physical. And the Bills need to be able to have some guys that they've drafted, developed, and have homegrown talent because they just let some guys go with Micah Hyde and Jalen, the other opposite safety. I forget it, Poyer. I forget his first name. Whatever. We got like 600 players we go
Yeah.
through. Jordan Poyer.
Yeah,
Jordan Poyer, the safety. I mean, you let go two staples of the secondary like that. And Tre'Davious White, yeah, he wasn't there a lot, but you let him go as well. So now who are you looking at to? You're looking at Elam, the next corner. They drafted him in the first round. He looked okay in the preseason, but you're going to need a guy like him to step up. And they didn't count on it. They didn't want to start him early in his career. And I wonder if that's indicative of his play. But they're going to need some of these homegrown guys to step up on the back end and in the linebacker position because this D-line is not going to win one-on-one and create pressure. Von Miller, I mean, he's kind of removed from a couple of years where we've seen good play from him to where now we're looking at him to be the guy because Greg Rousseau, he's got all the physical tools in the world, and they have a D tackle in Ed Oliver who you drafted like 8th overall. They're just not winning. And it's like if they can't create pressure up front, this is going to be a long season for them defensively. And then, man, I can't stress enough about the Josh Allen turnovers thing of him chasing points, hunting big plays, and having he has to have maturity in his game because this defense is going to be giving up points, man.
Yeah, this defense you touched on, I think the biggest thing is losing those leaders on defense, kind of like the quarterbacks of the defense. With Milano, with those two safeties you mentioned, they have
even Trey White too.
Yeah, yeah, they have. I mean, they have Rasul Douglas. He's a solid corner.
Yeah,
but he's not what you want out of your number one. You know what I mean?
Have a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah, you got Christian Benford too, but other than that, like their safeties are terrible. Honestly, I don't rate either one of their safeties in Damar Hamlin or Taylor Rapp. You lose Milano, who is a huge part. He's everywhere for them defensively, and like you touched on it, they have guys with theoretical upside with Ed Oliver and Greg Rousseau in terms of just traits and being able to win, but they haven't really seen it yet and hasn't really come to fruition because I think they're missing that kind of true number one, and both these guys are kind of like number twos in my opinion. They're really missing that number one.
They're physically dominant players that just aren't developing a skill set in terms of how to win,
Yeah.
And it's like, it's kind of disappointing. I really liked Rousseau coming out of college because you see how big he is, man, and big athletic edge rusher like that. I mean, I was really excited to see him, and he just doesn't win, and it's kind of disappointing to see that out of them.
Yeah, I got to shout out Joe Andressen. He was coming out of Buffalo last year, but he's originally from Bryant. School I played soccer at my first year, but I want to shout out him because he came out of nowhere, and I think he's one
football
of
player?
Yeah, football guy. Yeah, exactly,
Okay.
Football guy. But he's a monster, bro. He was one of the preseason guys that Buffalo just fell in love with.
Okay.
But super happy for him making this roster. He's like the third guy.
Go Bryant.
But go Bryant, bro. But we'll go to the Miami. Oh, you got one more?
Man, I think we wrapped up the Bills, but I mean, the Josh Allen evolution of his game. When we saw Mahomes lose some guys, he was able to become that game manager. We're gonna need to see that out of Josh Allen.
We're back. Let's get right into the Miami Dolphins, man. What do you think about them?
Hey, they're running it back. Double entendre. They got 3 running backs that I think all bring similar skill sets that the offense goes through. I mean, they say it's Tyreek Hill's show, of course, on offense, but without backs to have speed to threaten the way they do, this offense isn't the same, So that's why they're 3 deep. They got Raheem Mostert, A-Chain, and now Jalen Wright, who in the preseason, I mean, I didn't know. I wasn't familiar with his game. I mean, I wasn't familiar with this game. I look at how he showed some real instincts to make guys move, not just straight line speed, and that type of stuff is special. So I'm really excited to see what head coach cooks up with these backs. I mean, they're at receiver, they're a little top heavy. I think they're a little top heavy. They got Odell coming back at some point this season and be a 3, but I mean they're just going to run back the same formula they've had on offense for the past 2 years now as well. So I'm really interested to see if there's any new wrinkles. But this team, they bring in a fullback. Their offensive line is solid, especially on the edges. and they're all based on execution. But I really think that it's important for them to not peak too soon this year because they keep doing this where they blow their load early in the season,
Literally.
let Tyreek Hill go 200 in the first week,
Yep.
show off all this new motion and stuff like that, and then down the stretch they get figured out.
Yep.
You know, and it's like they're not deep at receiver, so they have to kind of hide their cards early on and hopefully lean into this back rotation, let some of that shine, and just execute and win games because this defense they have to back it up is pretty solid as well.
Yeah, you have the perfect guy for this offense, and I think Tua is to a T what you want from what Mike McDaniel he wants out of his quarterback, man. He just wants a guy who's going to do what's asked of him. He has a very quick decision making type of guy in Tua to get the ball out to Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. Probably the best receiver tandem in the league.
It is.
And then you got, like you said, 3 running backs. I don't know how they keep. I don't know what. We'll get to the Chiefs in a bit, but they just got another guy that's like A-Chain and Jalen Wright. Just crazy, explosive, dynamic athlete behind 2 athletes, Mostert and A-Chain. You got A-Chain, man. He won me my league last year. He is absolutely unbelievable. I picked him up, thank God, off waivers, and he just
A-Chain.
every time he touches the ball, man, I think it's going for a tutty. Like
Was
literally
it 7.8 a carry he averaged last year?
something crazy
he
like
had
that.
like 800 yards rushing and
Yep.
like 7.8 a carry.
And he missed like 5 or 6 games, man. Like just think about that. They have
Special, man.
They have, like you touched on it, man. They blew their load way too quick because this Dolphins team, they like you said, they ran it back. They're really banking on not going to play in negative 20 degrees. That's really what they're banking on because if you see this roster from last year, they add a few guys and lose a couple, but it's overall the same roster. I think they're confident in what they built. But yeah, they have a bunch of crazy motion there showing off in the preseason, but they gotta keep that under wraps, man. They gotta wait till playoffs to kind of pull that out because
Hide their cards, man.
yeah, you gotta show you have the talent to just win playing not normal offense, but using what you've already put out there.
Yeah.
Save the tricky stuff, save the stuff for the playoffs where you're like, all right, we're gonna catch these guys when it actually matters. Like when you play the Chiefs, the Bills, the Jets, these type of teams when you get to the end of the road. But yeah.
They got enough skill to win. They don't have to pull out all this trickeration. They don't have to pull out all this trickeration so early in the season, man. I mean, they need to just play football, run the ball, be physical, show that they can be physical, establish that, and then let the speed take over when they need it the most. And I mean, that Chiefs duo at corner last year, I can't say it enough. I think was special with L'Jarius Sneed and then their opposite guy they drafted. I forget his name. Trent McDuffie. Dude, the way the Spagnuolo schemes them up and has them playing physical, getting in these receivers' faces, these guys are fast. They're slimmer. Tyreek's built different. I mean, he's a big dude for his size and speed, but I mean, they don't want to be pressed, especially not in that kind of condition. And I think the Chiefs kind of combination of weather and the skill that the Chiefs came with, I think it just wasn't set up for them well. But I think when you have this depth at running back to be able to keep guys fresh and keep that speed electric all game long, all season long, you got a QB who can just execute at an extremely high level on offense. I mean, it's just they just got to wait a little bit before they can't get too excited early, you know? They got all these weapons. Hide them a little bit.
Exactly. Head over to this defense now, man. They take Jordan Poyer from the Bills.
Yep.
They signed Kendall Fuller, which is I think behind. I'm blanking on the thing we just mentioned. What was
Javon Holland?
No, it was the. Well, yeah, he's the free safety and the safety with him. But what team did we just talk about with the
Washington had Kendall Fuller.
I'm blanking. I'm blanking on what corners we just mentioned that were top end. But anyways, this corner room is unbelievable. Kendall Fuller's so fun to watch, man. And you put him alongside a guy like Jalen Ramsey,
Man,
they're
I love Ramsey.
they're gonna be a problem, man. If they can get pressured, I think there's gonna be actually a lot of coverage sacks with this team. They signed Calais Campbell, who's just a gap filler, really. He's just going to be a big body in there for them, obviously towards the latter end of his career. They got Jalen Phillips. They got Benito Jones, Zach Seiler, and Jordan Brooks. They have guys that are solid, not really jump off the page as like, all right, these are elite level guys.
Yes.
But they're going to play their role, and they're going to be benefited by this outstanding secondary. And I'm excited to see what they scheme up because you have guys that can cover downfield. You can kind of do what Notre Dame did this past weekend where you have an elite secondary. You can go cover zero and trust your guys on the outside to make plays and stop the pass like that. So what do you think about them?
They don't have to win one-on-one up front with the D-line and the edge rushers. They don't have to do that because they have the secondary to back it up. And I think that Calais Campbell is what I wish Greg Rousseau would be. It's very similar size in comparison, but Calais, he just does it year after year after year, and I don't see that changing. I think he's going to be another staple for this defense. And, I mean, they brought in a lot of guys, Kendall Fuller, Jordan Poyer, Calais Campbell, Jordan Brooks, Anthony Walker. They brought in stability on defense to make sure they're not getting gashed and not hopefully falling into the same trap of being soft. Because that's the thing. They're Miami. They're flashy. They want to just win big. They want to be more of a complete football team this year, and I think that defensive signings kind of show it. And I'm really interested to see what kind of games they play with the front seven because with the type of secondary that you have back there, you can do whatever you want to create pressure up front. I mean, if you're playing certain teams, you can do different things. Ramsey will travel. You got a good receiver on the other side. Bye. You put Ramsey on him. You X out that one matchup.
Yeah.
That's the type of defense this team has, and I mean, it's about complementary football, and that's what they got to do, and then be flashy when they need it.
Yeah, man. They draft Chop Robinson as a I think he was kind of a reach for them. I think it was a consensus like he kind of was a little overdrafted.
Not super familiar with his game. I mean, he looked a little athletic in the preseason when I saw him, but I didn't scout him that well.
Yeah, he's a guy out of Penn State that's kind of just twitchy. Yeah, twitchy, just kind of outside linebacker. Not really. Yeah. He's 6'3", so he's not like crazy big, but he's got some size to him. He's 6'3", 250, so he's not small, but he's also not on the bigger end either. He's kind of like middle.
He's got big enough size to play edge.
Yeah, middle ground, but they have him listed as their second outside backer behind Quentin Bell, and they also have Bradley Chubb.
Yeah, we got to see when he comes back.
Yeah.
Isn't he on PUP?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's
Jalen Phillips, though, I mean, having him come back is massive.
Yeah.
And, I mean, when Bradley Chubb does come back, you got guys to rotate.
Yep.
You can have Chop be that juice guy then. That doesn't have to be relied upon as a rookie. I mean, they got guys that can rotate. I feel like pretty confident that as long as the DC's got a clue of how to utilize the talents that he has, there's so many tools to work with back there.
Yeah, and we showed it the Chiefs showed it last year with Spagnuolo just kind of dialing up guys and not really leaning on. They have a few. Obviously, they have talent on the D line, but it's really his scheme and putting those guys in the right positions and then rotating those guys to keep them fresh. That's really the killer. And I think the Dolphins are kind of following that logic with the amount of talent they have on the D line. It's just like you said, can they execute? Can they get after the quarterback and dial up some unique pass rushes? But yeah, man, they also have a guy named Storm Duck.
I don't know if this is the same guy, but the Bears used to have a guy like that at corner in the preseason.
He's a corner.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same guy, but they used to have a guy named Storm Duck, and I was like, dang, that'd be cool to have a guy.
He's a rookie, so yeah, maybe there's another. There's two Storm Ducks roaming the earth, which is kind of terrifying. But we'll get into the Jets unless you want to touch anything else.
No, I think we hit it.
Let's head over to the Jets now, which, man, I was pumped last year, and then 4 plays in, my anticipation just dropped off a cliff. But you got Rodgers now. Do you want to lead off this? Because I'm excited about this, but I'll let you go on.
I can, yeah.
Yeah.
They got all the ingredients to cook with, but it's just about OC. You got Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, I'm offensively, defensively, they're loaded. Talent everywhere. I mean, I think that I was surprised at seeing the roster when I did look at it. I didn't think it was as talented as it was, but there's so many different skill sets in terms of receiving position, backfield, offensive line with the tackles they brought in. They're 3 deep at tackle now. You know, when you have that and you bring in guys that aren't just, okay, stardom, but Tyron Smith and the other tackle, Morgan Moses, who's just been hanging. Yeah, he's just been hanging around forever, you know, being a solid starter for everybody he's played for. I mean, my biggest thing about it is that you got a back rotation with Braylon Allen to where, like, Braylon Allen is a tone setter. You got to get him in on the field. I don't want to see them just running Breece Hall all the time. He's a back that can do it, but Breece is electric. You want to keep his play electric. Get a guy like Braylon on the field to set a tone and punch teams in the mouth with an offensive line you got like this to where he can get some open lanes. And when you got receivers like you got with Mike Williams coming in, Malachi Corley, and you got Garrett Wilson, who, I mean, I was stoked to see Aaron Rodgers with Garrett Wilson last year, and the way Aaron builds chemistry with his top guy. Garrett can do everything that he's looking for in a number one receiver, and I'm interested to see that. I know that they'll be on the same page, but I really question some things when I hear people talking about it's a co-OC with Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers. And, I mean, all those times with the Packers, they would always be mad at the play caller when Rodgers was the OC, half OC. And then they brought in Matt LaFleur, back-to-back MVPs. You know, you got a coach that can scheme, and Aaron trusts him. It took a minute or two, but he started to trust him. But you got a guy like Nathaniel Hackett who's going to let Rodgers be the co-OC. And Rodgers, with his chemistry plays, is sick. There's no doubt about it. He's probably the most talented quarterback I've seen before Mahomes. But, yeah. I mean, one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever play the game. And the way he gets chemistry with his guys is second to none. But my question is he just going to get too egotistical and just think that he can out-chemistry all these teams? Because that's where you get inconsistency in the offense and you get frustration. And then beyond that, they got guys in this backfield that I think should be the identity of the team. You got a 2-back head, like, I don't know another running game where you got 2 guys like this. Braylon Allen is a monster, dude, and I just can't wait to see if they utilize him because I really hope they do. And Malachi Corley, just get the ball in his hands.
He's
let
electric.
Him go.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just my question is just all going to be about that whole co-OC thing. I don't like it, you know, but we'll see. I mean, they just got to utilize the talents because they have everything to cook with.
Yeah, they have that 2-back system. They're not just – this is the opposite of what we talk about as complimentary. These guys are just big dudes. Breece Hall and Braylon Allen are both 6'1". Breece Hall is 220. Braylon Allen's 235. So you just got to think about just
Braylon Allen brings it, bro.
Bro, he's a freak, dude.
Did you see him in the preseason?
Yes, dude. He's a freaking animal.
Bro, he started to put fear into these safeties. Like when Ezekiel Elliott got drafted and he went against the Legion of Boom in preseason and he just trucked Cam Chancellor and threw his shoulder into him. I see a guy like Braylon Allen doing the same thing to where if they let the egos aside and just call the offense, dude.
The sky's the limit with this team, really. I mean, there's a reason everyone was high on them last year. They just go and make their team even better. I think Mike Williams is probably one of the best compliments you can have to Garrett Wilson. Oh, yeah. I'm a huge fan of him.
Me too.
His body control and just his ability to just go up and get the ball is exactly what this team kind of needs to complement Garrett Wilson and kind of like a Devontae Adams type of role.
Because Allen Lazard ain't doing it.
And, oh my God, I can't even talk about Allen Lazard, bro. He's completely useless. But they have guys on the O-line that you don't need to necessarily lean on the passing game. You touched on it. You have Aaron Rodgers. That's going to be the narrative the entire season. If he's not having one of his better career years in terms of passing, I wouldn't be surprised if you look at these running backs and they have a bunch of carries and they're establishing the run and you save Rodgers' magic for late game stuff where you need that 2-minute drill to go win a game because he has still got it, man. I don't know if you pair his hands. Yeah, he does. That training camp footage with him and the connection he already has with Garrett Wilson is special. He's going to be, I think, in terms of like elite level quarterbacks all time, he's up there with Brady, Mahomes as like the GOATs in my opinion of at least our generation. I think if they can get Breece Hall and Braylon Allen going on the run game, and they kind of take the pressure off Aaron Rodgers to make every throw, make every play, that's where I think this Jets team is at its best. They completely revamped the O-line to protect Rodgers after last year. It was kind of like a freak injury.
They've been investing for years in
this
with draft picks.
Yeah.
They tried Mekhi Becton. It didn't work out. But, I mean, they've been investing first-round picks in this offensive line. And then they just brought in with a trade and a signing, 2 studs at tackle.
Yeah. Let's head over to the defense now. What do you think about them?
I mean, even if Hassan Reddick doesn't come in, they got a guy who's like that in Will McDonald. I mean, you want Hassan Reddick on the field with them. We'll see what that ends up amounting to. But, I mean, very similar to the Dolphins. Back and forward, this defense is solid. And a guy that I really love is that Quincy Williams linebacker. He's like a Denzel Perryman tone setter. He will smash people, man. Dre Greenlaw. The best defenses in the league, they got guys that set a tone on defense, and they have that guy. It's about being complementary as a team and being able to keep that defense off the field so that they can stay aggressive, stay fast, and get after the QB with the guys they've drafted and invested in up front. And I think they got it, man. Whether Hassan Reddick comes in or not, they can still rotate. They got guys at depth on edge and also interior. You got Quinnen Williams, dude. I mean, one of the top 3, I don't know about 5, probably top 3 D tackles in the league
Top
that
3.
you have to prepare for as an opposing offense. When you got guys like Quinnen Williams, C.J. Mosley, Quincy Williams, the edges,
Jermaine Johnson.
Sauce, Jermaine Johnson. I love Jermaine Johnson as well. You got Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, and then the safeties are just versatile. I mean, dude, this defense has got stars all over the place, and it's just about not making them do it at all because you got to score more opponents in their team. The opponents aren't going to be scoring much. Just got to keep this defense fresh so they can do it all season long.
Yeah, they have some serious talent in terms of. We talked about some teams who have all right, we have the secondary, but they don't necessarily have that front 7 that's going to get after the quarterback. This is a team that has it all. They have it. Literally, they have 2 of the guys up front, Jermaine Johnson and Quinnen Williams, are one of the top 5, top 6 in their position in terms of Jermaine Johnson. But Quinnen Williams, like you said, is the top 3 guy.
Yeah.
He's unbelievable. The way he is able to stop the run and then also get after the quarterback from that D tackle spot, man. It's special to watch. They have C.J. Mosley, and then you touched on freaking Quincy Williams, man.
I love that dude.
They have 2 brothers on the same defense, and they're both studs. We talked about the Cook parents earlier. What about the Williams parents? Because they must be Olympians because the way they get these guys, how athletic, how dynamic they are.
Their dad must have been a bodyguard or something,
seriously, just tracking people down, seriously. But and you have the best corner in the league, Sauce Gardner. I don't want to hear anything from Pat Surtain fans, Jalen Johnson, Jair Alexander, anybody like that. Sauce is the best. He's an X factor on defense. He takes away a third of the field, whatever side he's on. They have guys like DJ Reed and Tony Adams, Chuck Clark to kind of complement them, but they go out and they freaking get who was the other nickelback? It was DJ Reed. Yeah, it was DJ Reed.
DJ Reed's their outside guy. They play him out there.
He's a stud, bro. He's good. I'm very interested.
I liked him in Seattle when they had him out there, but I mean, when you got him opposite of a guy like Sauce Gardner and you can give DJ Reed a little help over the top, because I mean, the whole thing with smaller corners like that, I used to watch it with Tim Jennings with the Bears. You can't leave him one-on-one with big receivers.
Yeah.
When the Lions would go Tim Jennings and Calvin Johnson, 5'9" versus 6'5", it's like touchdown.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
when you got a guy like Sauce, you can leave one-on-one who's got length and is there Richard Sherman in this Robert Saleh defense. You can go ahead and give a little bit of safety help to a guy like DJ Reader to where if the ball is thrown up one-on-one, it's 2-on-1. It's not DJ Reader in an overwhelming size mismatch.
Yeah, man. I'm good on the Jets if you are. Let's head over to the Patriots now. We're just going to gloss over them.
We'll get into it a little bit.
I think
just
the biggest thing is drafting Drake May and not starting him, which is the best thing for him and his development. Just sit behind Brissett. Let Brissett just get battered by this terrible Patriots offense.
And that schedule they got, too.
Yeah, combined with the talent they got on offense and the schedule, it's gonna be rough waters for this Patriots team all year. I did like the Jalen Polk pick. I was a big fan of him coming out of Washington. I think he's super dynamic and
Jalen Polk is interesting.
A very good kind of like a Jalen Waddle-esque type guy. But they don't have that one, so it's kind of like all for naught really with that receiving room. They have Demario Douglas, he's 5'8". They got Jalen Polk, who's 6'1", so he's not necessarily undersized, but he's not big. And then you got KJ Osborne, so they don't really have a true X, which is going to be interesting to see how that plays out. They got Ramondre Stevenson, obviously, pretty solid back, but he's just going to get keyed in on because I think this Patriots team is going to be probably the worst team in the league this year. What are your thoughts on them?
I mean, you said it basically. I mean, their over-under is 4.5. With the schedule combined with the talent and where they're at in terms of building a team, you're taking that under all day. I mean, it's just this is not a situation that's conducive to a success for a young QB. You don't have the weapons. You don't have the offensive line. You don't have – I mean, the defense still got pieces, but you let Judon go in a trade. And this new coaching staff, the whole thing with the defense is that they've been elevated by coaching. Bill Belichick's done it for decades now, where he would get guys that have specific skill sets and win with them, And it's just they have some guys in the secondary that are okay, that I don't hate. And Christian Gonzalez is a player that it's too bad they're at where they're at right now. I hope that he can kind of keep his confidence and build some stepping stones into the next years of his career, because this year is going to be a long season for them on offense, defense. It's just they don't really have a lot of guys where you look at and this is why we're going to win football games. And coaching staff, I mean, we'll see what they can do with the guys on offense, but you don't have speed and explosion outside of like Jalen Polk. They got Demario Davis, the receiver, the slot guy they have. Yeah. I mean, I like Demario Davis and Jalen Polk. And I mean, Osborne, they got a little bit of speed. But I mean, in terms of just like skill sets, what are you looking at that's going to put the ball in the end zone? Who are you looking at that's going to win a one-on-one, route up a DB when you need him to on third down? There's not a lot of guys that you look at in this offense that you're going to say that about, especially behind an offensive line that's in the shape that it's in.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. I want to talk about this defense for a second because they were already thin at the front seven with their D-line. Dude. And then they lose Barmore to that blood clot issue, and he might not be able to play the rest of the season.
Whoa, I didn't see that.
Yeah, man. It was just literally just dropped today.
Bro. Yeah, they're going to be the worst team in the league.
He had 8.5 sacks last year. He was a big part of their D-line. And losing Belichick, not only do you lose him and obviously his just championship pedigree as a coach, you lose that defensive scheme. And going from that and then losing Barmore, this front seven looks awful. I don't really see anybody on this team that really stands out to me. They have Anthony Jennings, who's decent, but I
like Anthony.
Jabril Peppers and Christian Gonzalez are going to be doing a lot of covering this year.
I like Duggar. too.
You like Duggar?
I like Duggar and Jabril Peppers. I think they got some versatility at safety, some pieces that you hope can hang around through the rebuild, but it's a rebuild. They got about 3 years before they're going to be able to actually compete for anything.
Yeah, I'm pretty low on them. I think they're going to be the worst team in the league.
I really want to see if they can maintain any of the coaching that they had on defense, because they have a linebacker in Gerard Mayo who played in it, grew in it. Hopefully he can remain and sustain some of what they had in coaching, but it's just going to be a really long ride for him.
Yeah, let's head over to the Kansas City Chiefs now. You got it, bro. Talk about
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best offensive lines in the league. They had that Super Bowl matchup against the Bucs and said never again. It doesn't look like it's going to be ever again this year, at least. The offensive line is studded. I mean, you look at the receiving core, they brought in a ton of speed so they can run their RPOs and kind of let Pat be the distributor with a sprinkle of special.
Yep.
He's got all the special in him that he needs and all the experience with a coach like Andy Reid to help sculpt the offense and get the most out of the guys they have. And I think one of the biggest things that they did last year that is going to carry over for his rookie deal, because he's a running back, is Isaiah Pacheco and that run game. I really think that that's just the identity. And seeing them kind of transform and evolve their team last year, go from, oh, Pat, go put up 40 and throw for 5,000 yards a year, to, okay, we're going to run the ball and play defense last year. I thought that was so impressive and an amazing example of what coaching does to a team, what good coaching does, because they looked at what they had and they said, you know what, we're going to have to be a little tricky in offense. We're going to have to be able to smash people in the mouth, and they did that, and then they relied on their defense and let Spagnuolo go to work, So I think that was probably one of the most impressive things that I didn't think they had it in them, honestly, going into last year. But coming into this year, they got speed. They got Hollywood Brown. They got Xavier Worthy. Whatever happens to Rashee Rice when he comes back, I mean, he's a good guy that they can rely upon and that can execute within the offense. But one guy I think that we saw a little bit in the preseason that is going to be a factor, whether it's at fullback, kick return, or running back, this kid Steele, the blonde, long hair that he's got, dude, watching him explode stiff-arm guys and take like 40-yard runs to the house, I didn't think that was going to be an element that they might be able to have. But this is a guy who, like, maybe they won't play him early on in the season. They might stash him a little bit. But what the Chiefs do is they make sure they peak in the postseason. Matt Nagy, the OC, came from KC to the Bears. He would always talk about this, not peaking too soon. And the Chiefs, it's what they do, and he knows that. This guy Steele is going to be a factor down the second half of the season into the postseason to give Pacheco some relief, but also still be a playmaker. I'm excited to see how they utilize him. But Kelsey, he's aging a little bit, but this year is not going to be much different than last year.
Yeah, they toned down Kelsey's usage last year from that big kind of target share in the regular season to like more of a limited role, and then kind of ramped him up, and we saw the Kelsey of old in the playoffs last year, just dominating. But he's in a spot where, man, they don't have to have him be the focal point of the offense. They go out and get all those speed guys. They get Carson Wentz. They sign Samaje Perine from the Broncos. They have that Carson Steele guy you're talking about. They got Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Man, Clyde can go. Clyde can go.
He's their fourth guy.
Yeah, he can bounce, bro.
Yeah, but Rashee Rice right now, he's slated to start tonight. We're filming this on the day of the Chiefs-Ravens opener.
He's slated to start. Wasn't he suspended? He didn't get suspended?
He didn't get suspended at all, bro. That's what I was talking about yesterday with the Zay Jones thing, where Zay Jones has a situation.
Zay's had some weird stuff.
He's had some weird stuff, but I didn't realize that you could just completely wreck a car at 120 and be starting for the Chiefs that following season without any repercussions. But
Addison had some stuff too, where he had like DUI or whatever, and he was going to play Jordan Addison.
I'm a biased Cardinals fan, so just let me cook with this. But the Rashee Rice, I mean, off the field stuff, whatever, but on the field, he's going to have a huge role again. Mahomes was talking about elevating, having that even bigger target share than what he had last year, and I don't necessarily get that comment because of who they added. But they have Hollywood Brown's going to be out with that shoulder injury the first few weeks. So they're going to be leaning heavy on Xavier Worthy, their first-round pick, who's just, how do you let the Chiefs get the fastest guy ever? I just don't understand the team's logic in that.
Bills made a mistake.
Yeah, Bills, I mean,
they traded back in front of the Chiefs and let the Chiefs take Xavier. That was a mistake.
Yeah, I remember I was sitting there watching on my phone. I was
and
like,
then they took Keon Coleman. I'm like, oh, man, what are they doing?
Yeah, they signed Juju Smith-Schuster. They have Sky Moore.
They brought back Juju.
Yeah, they have. I don't know what's going on there.
Him and Patrick Mahomes' brother, gonna be making TikToks all season, bro.
Yeah, seriously, bro. Seriously, they have the best center in the league with Creed Humphrey. They have a solid offensive line. Obviously, got to protect the best quarterback in the league. But yeah, man, let's head over to the defense now. They got guys, bro. This Spagnuolo-led defense is unbelievable. The way that they re-signed Chris Jones, which is like the main talking point of like kind of the offseason, and then they fixed it right away. Chris Jones is such a vital part of this defense. You got Karlaftis, who's just a perfect number 2 guy to kind of bounce off what Chris Jones does. And you got Nick Bolton, who's a stud. I'm a huge Nick Bolton guy. I think he's everywhere for them. And then you get this corner room. They lose L'Jarius Sneed, which is a big loss for them, but they kind of elevate McDuffie into this. I think we're going to be having this McDuffie conversation next year with the scheme he's in, with the talent. He's going to be up there as like we're going to be talking with him like the Jalen Johnsons. Maybe not that elite tier, but just under that with like the top 5 to 8 corners in the league. I think he might be already kind of knocking on the door of the top 8. Yeah. But what are your thoughts on this defense, man?
I mean, they've just shown an ability to develop cornerbacks. I mean, it started with Charvarius Ward when this Spagnuolo defense came into Kansas City back in 2018, 2019, and they've just shown an ability to develop the cornerback position. I don't really question them and their ability to do that. They haven't shown an ability to stop people on defense since when Spagnuolo first got here. And now they've gotten their guys. They have an eye for who they want on defense. And, I mean, one guy I want to highlight is Eric Reed, the safety. He's a do-it-all player for them, and he is their tone setter in the secondary. And in that Super Bowl run in the playoffs, that guy was making play after play, whether it was run stuff or breaking up passes. Dude, he was so impressive, and I didn't really think that he was going to have this long of a career. Didn't he come from, was it the Texans or the Niners? It was the Texans, right?
Talking about Justin Reed?
Justin Reed.
Yeah.
Him and his brother, Eric Reed and Justin Reed. Exactly. Eric Reed was from the Niners. Yeah. Justin Reed is from the Texans.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Justin Reed, though, and I think he is kind of their X factor on the back end that set the tone physically. You can bring him down, but he has range to play in the back end as well. So they play games with those DBs, but they know how to develop them and they know what they like.
Yeah, totally agree. They also signed Cam Thomas from the Cardinals in a trade for a 7th rounder a few weeks ago, actually probably like a week ago. Cardinals, man, I don't know what they're doing. They just deal away Cam Thomas, their best pass rusher, for just a bag of chips basically, and just give him to the best D coordinator in the league. So yeah, man, I think that's it for the Chiefs. If you want to touch on anything else.
No, that's it, man. They're back.
Let's head to the Raiders now. Let's get over to Las Vegas. What are your thoughts on that, man?
Las Vegas, man. Okay, so we're going with Raiders. It's unfortunate that the QBs are who they are because the situation around them and the defense they have is winning football. I'm interested to see if Luke Getsy coming over, if not having a QB like Justin who couldn't read a defense and somebody like Gardner Minshew now who can be a point guard distributor, just get the ball into his guys' hands. You're not going to want to touch any of these players in fantasy football, but they're good football players that are going to help them win or be competitive in every game. So it's just they have the defense to back up this offense that's studded with playmakers. I mean, I like Zamir White as a tone setter on the ground game, but you bring in a guy like Brock Bowers who can just line up all over the offensive formations. You can put him in the backfield as a fullback and run routes with him. He can be a lead blocker. He can be a decoy. You can put him isolated one-on-one on the backside. And it's like Michael Mayer, you just drafted him in the 2nd round. You can still leave him at the Y. Leave him as the end line blocker. Let Brock be the playmaker. And you have Devontae on the outside, Jacoby on the outside. You got perimeter players that got size and ability to win one-on-one. Trey Tucker in the slot with speed. I'm a big Trey Tucker guy as well. I didn't like him last year to start, but we saw some play down the stretch of him having ability to catch the ball. He had a big issue with drops, but if you can let all these other guys be playmakers and then let Trey Tucker be that big play guy here or there, you got something with this offense. But it's all going to start with the physical ground game, and Luke Getsy wanted to do it. When he had Tyson Bagent starting at quarterback for the Bears, the offense kind of functioned. And I'm not going to lie. I hate to say it, but it may have been a Justin Fields thing to why Luke Getsy looks so incompetent. I think he is
Might have been.
competent. I think he is. I think he is competent, but I'm interested to see what he is able to do to insulate these QBs from themselves. Because Aiden O'Connell, I'm disappointed in. I don't want to see him on the field. He can't feel the pocket. He just like there's a reason why Khalil Mack sacked him 6 times and he fumbled however many times in his first start. And in the preseason, you saw flashes of the same issue. I don't think he can feel it in the pocket, and you're going to rely on Gardner for most of the season. And we'll see what the ceiling is for this team, but they got some complementary football on both sides and legit playmakers to lean on.
Yeah, they go. I'm a big Zamir White guy, especially in terms of fantasy this year. He had 20-plus carries the last 5 games when Antonio Pierce is at the helm. I think it's going to be a lot of the same this year. Just kind of trying to make Minshew look as good as he can be. He's proven that he can be a competent starter in this league. Maybe not for a playoff team, but he can get you. He can make throws, and you're like, okay, Gardner, like I see you, man. But give him weapons like this, like you touched on, like Brock Bowers. He fell way too far, in my opinion, in this draft. I had him going like 5 or 6, but then they ended up kind of taking him. What did he end up going? I think 11, 12, 13? Yeah, I think 13. 13, man. But
there's just other teams with the needs. I mean,
yeah,
there's teams with needs, but I mean, he's highly talented.
He's such a freak.
Get the ball in his hands.
He's a freak, man. We'll go over to the defense. They got Max Crosby, man. He's probably up there with the Myles Garretts of this league, man. He's totally. A complete game record. They signed Christian Wilkins from the Dolphins. He's a Clemson guy. I'm a big fan of him, of his mic'd up moments. He's hilarious. He's also a hell of a football player, too. He's going to be a guy that's going to be able to stop this run and allow Max Crosby to kind of get after the passer and not have to do everything on this defensive line. They have guys in the secondary that are. I'm a big Jack Jones guy. He had that crazy pick last year in that route.
Athletic.
Yeah, but what are your thoughts on this defense, man?
I mean, they got players at every level of the defense, you know, and I listen to other pods too as well. And I mean, it's funny they joke about Antonio Pierce. Robert Spillane is the heart and soul of this defense. And I mean, I watched him with the Steelers, and Spillane's not a bad player. He executes on defense, but he's not a playmaker. You know, he's not a guy that. He's not like a Roquan Smith that can go sideline to sideline, but he's a guy that you throw in the middle and you feel comfortable with, especially with the D line that's going to be able to draw attention the way they will, whether it's in run or pass defense. And like you kind of said a little bit, they got some secondary players that are homegrown, developed, been in the defense and been together for a couple years now, to where it's like I think they got some continuity. I don't think that last year was a fluke for the defense. I think this is how they're going to be going forward. And I think this whole team, they're not going to try to be flashy. They're going to be physical. They're going to punch teams in the mouth, and they're going to try to just win, which is their motto, which Antonio Pierce is supposed to completely identify, be the identity of the Raiders. And, I mean, all they're going to try to do is win games. And, I mean, I think that they're going to be able to do it. They got guys to match up. They got safeties with Morig, and then as well. I like Nate Hobbs as the opposite corner. You know, they got 1-2. It's not just a guy. So I'm interested to see how the pass rush and the depth of the D line is able to rotate in, because they do have a really heavy talent set with Christian Wilkinson and Max Crosby. And Max Crosby's in his prime right now. He's not having a one-year wonder type of deal.
No.
So we're going to see a couple years of this defense being pretty stud.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Antonio Pierce and what he's kind of just brought to this culture, this team. I think that Josh McDaniels hire and how that kind of ended was just much needed for both sides. I think with this Raiders team and their identity, like you were talking about, like they're just going to go out there and try to play winning football, and that's really all you can ask for. And Antonio Pierce is the perfect head coach to kind of just preach that to these guys. I'm not really projecting these guys making a playoff run. I think if everything goes right, they'll probably be like 8 and 9. But with Gardner Minshew as your quarterback, that you can't really expect too much. I know they're on the verge of the playoffs last year. They're one game away for the Colts, but they didn't make the playoffs, and that's kind of the reason why they had pieces on the defense, guys on offense, similar to what he has now. But yeah, man, let's head over to the Denver Broncos now. Sean Payton finally gets his guy, man. It was this weird freaking control freak mentality over there in Denver where you have to do it my way, the way I like it. And he goes and drafts a guy who is going to do that for him. And Bo Nix is, say what you want about him in college and just playing for so long, but he looked good in the preseason. I know it's preseason, but if he just does what is asked of him, he's got, I mean, Javonte Williams, Julian McLaughlin, they have Courtland Sutton, who finally just has a quarterback now, which I think can actually get him the ball.
He might.
I'm not a Bo Nix guy, but he's better than what they got last year. And they got Marvin Mims, too. They kind of, I don't know, they have Adam Troutman as their tight end. They're kind of, as you go down this depth chart, you kind of see like, oh, this doesn't get any better. But, yeah, this offense, man, what do you think about it?
I mean, if they're winning games, it's going to be because Sean Payton. They traded for him and invested in him because he's supposed to be able to be a coach that does that. You win games because of, and I mean, they got a back rotation that's I want to like Javonte Williams more. I don't think the offensive line is overly impressive to where it's going to be a consistent ground game that you'll see on the field each week. But I mean, they got a guy in Jaleel McLaughlin who can be a change of pace, and then also to the third back that's from Notre Dame. I forget his name.
Estime.
Yeah, Audric Estime. I do like him a little bit, but I don't know. In the preseason, it's just he doesn't look like he has any sort of juice to be able to define a specific role on this offense. And I mean, when you're looking at the receiving core, it's Courtland Sutton and a bunch of guys.
Yep.
I wish they would free Courtland Sutton, honestly, and trade him away because
he deserves it.
Dude's been loyal. I've loved him since he was coming out of SMU, and I mean, I wish they would just trade him, because I don't think that there's an offense that's going to be able to maximize him here, and I think that they're just kind of wasting years of his prime. It's unfortunate. He's a very big receiver, ball winner, one-on-one. You cannot leave him alone. And 6'4", he just overwhelms DBs. And you saw some of the special last year with a QB that could at least throw him a jump ball.
Yeah.
With Russell Wilson. And Russ had okay numbers, but I mean, and he won some big games. And Courtland was a big reason why they were actually able to do that. I'm happy they got rid of Jerry Jeudy. He didn't want to be there, whatever. But I mean, it's Courtland Sutton and everyone else in terms of this offense.
Yeah, Courtland Sutton, to kind of touch on him wasting his prime, he turns 29 October 10th. So he's already kind of
he's still in it.
He's definitely right now, this season and next season is his prime.
Yeah.
Which is terrible because I think it's a waste of a crazy talent. Head over to this defense now. Let's go start with the D-line. John Franklin Myers, big pickup. Zach Allen, just a freak from Boston College. A lot of reports come out of camp from this Broncos team where this D-line was kind of shocking some people. I don't really think they have the biggest projections as being a top-end D-line. But from what everyone was saying in the camp coming out of Denver, they were pretty impressed by what they saw. I mean, and you got Pat Surtain as your kind of lockdown corner, man. He's up there with Sauce and them as the best corner in the league. He's just blankets people, like I said. Yeah, man, what do you think about this defense?
The front seven, you at least got some guys that you feel like can affect the game. But, I mean, it's just tough when you look at the secondary and it's Pat Surtain and a bunch of guys. And I just don't see a way where this team results in winning football. I mean, you're not going to be scoring a lot on offense. That's already established. And when you got a defense it's an average unit with guys up front that you're hoping can take a step but are unproven. to where now you're just kind of going in, week out at the wind of whoever you're playing against. If they have a good game plan, you're going to get it taken to you. So I don't know. It's just kind of a tough go for the Broncos, and I don't really have much optimism in terms of their season coming up.
Yeah, man. We'll head over to our final team for this AFC overview, the LA Chargers, man. What do you think about them?
I'm stoked, honestly. I think it's really unfortunate that Justin Herbert has specifically a foot injury, because you bring in Greg Roman and everyone's, oh, why do they bring in Greg Roman? But I mean, you look at the skill set that Justin Herbert has. He's got more rushing upside that hasn't been touched, and you don't want to run him into the ground too much, but you have a surprise element of sneaky athleticism with a guy like Herbert to where you can sneak in an option. You can maybe run a QB draw, and it's just they brought in a lot of physical tone setting skill sets on the outside run game. They built up this offensive line, and on defense as well. They want to be physical. They want to build a bully basically on both sides of the ball. And I think we're going to see some of that this year. Also, too, we're not going to ever have to see what's his name at QB because they traded for Taylor Heineke, thankfully.
Yeah, thank God.
Easton Stick. Oh, man, dude.
That was awful to watch last year.
Him and Desmond Ridder, dude. I can't even watch them play, dude. It's a podcast. I'm not an NFL QB. They're in the NFL. Good for them. But I mean, it's just I like good football, and I don't like watching them.
They get paid millions of dollars, but you can talk whatever you want.
Yeah.
We're sitting here at the kitchen table.
For
Might
real,
as well.
exactly, bro. So, I mean, it's just I'm happy they at least got a guy. So if Herbert's, having to, go down for whatever reason, you have someone who you can rely upon. But, I mean, you look at this backfield that's going to be running behind this offensive line. You got three guys who I really like. You got Gus Edwards, the tone setter, the physical runner that's going to be able to punch teams on early downs. And I think as the season goes on, you're going to see a guy like Kamani Vidal start to step in and bring some juice. I watched him at Troy, and I didn't think he had the speed that he had. And then he came out and ran like a 4.46, I think it was, at the Combine. And it really surprised me. You couldn't tell the athletic ability on his tape when he was at Troy too much because he's playing against Troy competition. I'm really interested to see when he gets in with a starting unit if he's able to bring a different element because I don't really like J.K. Dobbins at this stage after, 2 ACLs?
Yeah, he's been through it.
Yeah, he's been through it. So it's just I know people don't really like the change-ups at receiver with letting Keenan go, letting Mike Williams go. But I'm not going to lie. I think they brought in some guys that are going to fit the style of offense they want to play. When you look at Greg Williams, wherever he's been in San Fran, he's been in Baltimore, they don't have stud receivers. They have guys who execute run block and can be reliable and dependable when they need them, And, I mean, a guy like Brendan Rice is hungry and physical and big. I'm excited to see if he gets any opportunity in the offense because you got Josh Palmer. I'm excited to see Ladd McConkey if Herbert can actually drop back and pass efficiently with the injury he has. But I'm just very excited to see the tone set and change of identity on the team because for years the Chargers have been soft, on both sides in the trenches. And I think that'll be different this year with the identity shift with coaching and drafting and investing in the offensive line.
I totally agree. I think that J.K. Dobbins pickup is kind of all right, I don't know what you can really say about him.
Roman knows him.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. And we highlighted the same guy, Kamani Vidal. He's a very good compliment to Gus Edwards. Kind of he's 5'8", 215. So he's kind of pretty stocky guy for being 5'8", but he could fly too. I'm actually a big Josh Palmer guy. I think I was pretty impressed with what I saw last year when Mike Williams and Keenan Allen were out. I think Herbert actually has a very good connection with him. I think he's going to be kind of this. He's only 6'1", so he's not really an outside guy, but they have a bunch of guys where
I thought he was taller.
I know I feel like
6'1"?
I feel like he plays taller. I feel like he plays like a
he
physical
was
guy. But they draft Ladd McConkey, like you touched on. Great route runner. Harbaugh seems to love him, but Harbaugh is kind of odd and is going to say whatever. And then they drafted Quentin Johnson, who a notably bad season last year with drops and stuff, and I kind of felt for the guy because he was so highly touted coming out of TCU and kind of just tore up this Michigan team who Harbaugh was in charge of 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So maybe he kind of sees like, all right, well, what be us? We're going to use that with you, kind of just get you out and like crossers and just kind of utilize your athleticism. But yeah, man, they draft Joe Walt and they're just going to be a physical running team. They're going to pound the rock. You know Harbaugh, what he likes to do, just establish the run. You got a quarterback in Herbert who is so talented, man. He's so lucky he's coming into a system where he's got a franchise QB already there for him, so he can kind of not worry about that and just worry about kind of making that offense run. Moving on to this defense now. What do you think about this defense?
The defense, they're trying to change it up because this past couple of years, I mean, for as long as I've watched the Chargers, they've been soft on the defensive line. They kept the edges. They chose to let the receivers go on offense, and they chose to keep the edges. And they're going to need them because behind them, there's not really any kind of depth. You got Bud Dupree, and that's it. And it's like you don't want to see Bud Dupree on the field with this team. I think interior, though, in terms of the guts of this defense, whether it's D tackle and linebacker, I think they got some physical presences that are familiar with this style of ball that they want to play, and I think they're going to be able to stop the run. I love Denzel Perryman, and I'm excited to see him with a team like this that wants to play a certain style of ball that fits him. And I think that people forget about him a little bit, but I think the Chargers might be a little more competitive than people would realize. And on the secondary, you still have Derwin James. I think at corner, I think it's going to take a year or two before they get the guys in there they want. I like Asante Samuel as an athletic player, but I don't know if he fits their style of ball they want to play. And I just think that their whole thing this year is that they want to establish identity as a team of being a bully. And I think that they're going to be able to stop the run. They're going to be able to run the ball. And beyond that, if their edge rushers can stay on the field, Mac has 17 sacks last year, 6 of them in one game against Aiden O'Connell because Aiden apparently didn't know where 52 was.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's been a little removed time since we've seen Joey Bosa be an effective player for a full season, if ever, Yeah. And I'm a little concerned about the edges. I think when they play teams that have speed, like if they were to go up against the Dolphins, I'm a little concerned. I think that a team like the Dolphins could really exploit this unit. But when they're playing teams that are average speed or non-explosive, they're gonna pound some of these teams and really bully them around the field. And I think that they're gonna be more competitive depending on the matchup. But they have an identity that they want to have on both sides of the ball, and it's pretty clear.
Yeah, they're just gonna pound the rock, and on defense they're gonna try to just buff up and kind of juice up this Chargers defense where they've been just kind of labeled soft for so long. You kind of touched on it. Like we're talking about it earlier, and Chargers have never really been like that physical presence, and now that's going to be their identity with Harbaugh coming in defensively. I love Derwin James. I'm a big fan of these guys that are just playmakers on defense, like these Kyle Hamilton, Brian Branch guys. Like, just so fun to watch. I'm actually a Asante Samuel guy. I think he's actually pretty decent, but not as their one. You know what I mean? Like, he needs to be their 2 to 3. Khalil Mack, obviously a monster, and you touched on Bosa. He's a monster when healthy. That's the asterisk with him, is like when he's healthy. But yeah, man, I don't really see this Chargers team making too much noise this year, but they're heading in the right direction. I'm a big, like I said earlier in the pod, like I'm a big fan of teams where I can see where they're going with it, and the Chargers have a clear way that they're gonna want to establish going forward. So excited to see them, not only this year but in the future. But yeah, man, that wraps up our AFC overview. We're trying to go shorter, but we ran about the same time, which is totally cool. We're actually gonna check out our team predictions after this for week 1. If you guys want to stay tuned for that, it should be up later today. But yeah, man, I appreciate you guys listening and Randy for joining me.
Yes, sir.
And make sure to follow the TikTok. It's Let's Talk Ball _podcast on TikTok and Instagram. Just kind of help grow this podcast. And if you guys like it, just give it a like on Spotify or YouTube, wherever you're listening. But I appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you guys in a minute. Bye.